This 250,000 acres look positively pathetic. So why the fuck have cornfields become the hottest asset amongst the big boys on Wall Street?
Investors are buying up farmland across America, and critics say it's pushing out the small family farmer. But advocates say it's propping up the market.
John Malone, the largest private landowner in America, owns 2.2 million acres all by himself.
Why do you think Bill Gates is buying up all this land?
He's reportedly purchased more than 200,000 acres in 18 states.
Farming has typically been done by families who own their own farm and work on the land themselves with or without the help of additional labor during harvest. Despite the rapid growth of financial investors into farmland, most farming is still done this way. But exactly how much is really hard to tell. According to the Economic Research Service of the U.S. Department of Agriculture, just over 60% of farmland is owner-operated, and the remainder is rented to the farmers that work the land. This doesn't tell the full story though, because while owner-operated farms may evoke imagery of small-time family farmers, it can include institutional operators that also happen to own the land. Similarly, some families rent out their land to external operators either because they can't productively use the land themselves, they don't have enough land to achieve economies of scale, or because they would rather the more passive rental income stream than stressing over a harvest. These agreements can vary from state to state and individual to individual. Some agreements could be a little more than a handshake between two local landowners, and plenty involve corporate lawyers representing the interests of an institutional agricultural real estate investor and another team of lawyers representing the interest of an institutional food production company. The final thing that makes it hard to assess just how much farmland has become a financial asset is that most farmers will incorporate even small farms as a business, because that's exactly what they are. So, even small hobby farms will have effectively the same business structure as a massive commercial farm, which is part of a portfolio of farms owned by a family office from a major city. It's these very conditions, though, that have made farming so attractive to big investors for 4 reasons. The first is that it's an amazing opportunity to consolidate and scale. Farming is a business that gains tremendous efficiencies from scale. A small 100-acre family farm is going to have a lot of the same fixed costs as a 10,000-acre commercial farm, squeezing their margins from commodity products. Large commercial farms also have more negotiating power over expenses like seed, fertilizer, pesticides, equipment rental, fuel, labor, and even interest on their loans, because large commercial borrowers will normally have access to more favorable lending facilities than small family farms going to their local community bank. According to the most recent USDA Farm Production Expenditure Summary, these were the top-line items for most farms, which run on razor-thin operating margins. Just 10% of small family farms have an operating profit margin above 25%, a share which has halved over the last decade. If the family is operating the farm themselves, that can mean that even if there is profit left over at the end of the year, it would equate to less than minimum wage for the people working the land. The Wall Street solution has been to buy up lots of small, relatively inefficient family farms and turn them into one big farm with wider operating margins. The number of individual farms in America has been on a steady decline since the Great Depression, but the total number of acres dedicated to farming has remained stable, which means farms have simply been getting bigger. Now, just because a business is changing doesn't automatically make it a bad thing. These larger farms, on top of being more efficient businesses, also have more capital to invest into technology. According to a McKinsey industry survey, less than 5% of farmers in North America are adequately investing into new technologies, and often that's because they can't. Another report by the firm found that fully automated systems could quadruple returns on the farmland. The only problem is if you wanted to buy the equipment they were studying and use it on your own family farm, it would cost you at least $350,000 if you were prudent and purchase it used. Small family farmers cannot afford that without further putting themselves into debt, but the idea of quadrupling ROIs is enough to pitch a tent in any investment firm who would happily allocate the money. This business strategy is right out of the private equity playbook of rolling up lots of smaller businesses into one larger business that has shared overhead and more market power. This could mean more investment into technology to lower food prices for everybody, or it could be used to widen margins for investors. But even in a perfect world, the benefits of what they can do with some business optimization has nothing over the advantage that farms have as an investment when it comes to debt and tax minimization. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how farms became the perfect buy and hold asset, and what it means for everybody else once they are all bought and held. This week's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is a hands-free service that helps you remove your personal information from data broker websites. These brokers collect and sell your data, things like your name, address, and phone number, without you even knowing. With Delete Me, privacy experts find and remove your data from hundreds of these sites. They also monitor and make sure your information doesn't pop up again. Personally, I love how easy it is. I've been using Delete Me to protect my privacy and got a full report showing where my data was removed. It's a relief knowing my info isn't floating around online. And if you're worried about your family, they've got plans to protect them too. Take control of your privacy by heading to joindeleteme.com/HMW and use code HMW for 20% off. Links are in the description below. To investors, farms are effectively just commercial property assets like office buildings, warehouses, or retail precincts. They can purchase the real estate and use it to run their own business on the land, or they can rent it out to actual farmers like they would rent out a floor of an office building to a law firm. The difference with farmland is that even in bad markets, when companies are closing down offices and people are spending less in retail centers, they still need to eat. And so farms have been seen as a largely uncorrelated asset class to traditional real estate for a long time. Ray Kroc was the man who scaled the McDonald's business from a small family operation into the multinational company it is today. The success really started when an associate of his, Harry Sonneborn, told him that he wasn't in the burger business. He was in the real estate business. The restaurants that sit on top of the land are just cash flow generators, but the real money was to be made in owning the land itself. Or at least, that's how the story goes. Today, McDonald's only owns about 45% of the land it operates on worldwide, as smaller restaurants like those found inside shopping malls, train stations, and airports have become just as common as the traditional standalone operations. Farmland is really the same. Investors don't care about farming. They are only interested in the value of the land itself. The profitability of the farm that operates on the land just helps to pay the loans they use to buy it. And that's the second reason why farmland has become so popular amongst large investors. In another trick from the private equity playbook, the thing that has made farmland so attractive is that it's a business and real estate rolled into one, which makes it perfect for a leveraged buyout. An investor with $100 million could buy just one single large farm and happily rent it out for a modest ROI. Or they could take their $100 million and use it to effectively put down payments on 5 farms and then borrow the remaining $400 million to have a portfolio of land 5 times as large. With a bit of cost cutting and some investments into technology, the farm should be able to cover the repayments on this debt, and now the investors could stand to profit 5 times as much if their land appreciates in value by the same amount. This is effectively a leveraged buyout. But the difference is that it can sometimes be hard for businesses to borrow money. But because most of a farm's value is in its land, it's a lot easier to get leverage because the land itself can be used as collateral. Counterintuitively, this highly leveraged investment structure can actually be less risky than the more conservative investor who just pays all cash. Just like a leveraged buyout, each individual farm is responsible for its own $80 million share of the loan. So if one is managed poorly or is impacted by a natural disaster, it can just go bankrupt and only lose the investor $20 million in the situation of a total write-off. That's still a lot of money, but it's only a fifth of what the investor would be risking if they put their entire investment into one unleveraged farm. Now, this gives sophisticated investors a significant advantage over traditional family farmers who do simply own their own single farm. And that's further fueled this investment trend. According to data from the Department of Agriculture, farmland values have reached all-time highs. The average acre of farmland is worth almost double what it was in the farmland bubble of the 1980s, even after adjusting for inflation. The business of farming has been harder than ever over the last decade in most parts of the country. There have been droughts, natural disasters, ballooning chemical costs, monopolistic behaviors from equipment suppliers, increasingly expensive water rights rules, and tightening access to credit for regular borrowing.
A problem that's been plaguing America's farmers. The tractors, planters, and other gear they rely on can sometimes break down, but in many cases, they're not able or even permitted to make repairs.
Farm bankruptcies are down from their peak in 2019, but that has been helped a lot by generous government support and low interest rates. As these support programs have been wound back and rates have risen, normal farmers are starting to realize the reality that their business model just isn't viable anymore. According to a report by Time magazine, before these disruptions, more than half of all farmers had lost money every year since 2013. Small-scale farming is running on tighter margins than ever, while land values are at an all-time high. So big institutional buyers have had no shortage of smaller sellers who are being forced to or are willingly deciding to get out at a good price. Now, the image of good old-fashioned American farmers giving up their land as billionaires or faceless investment fund is not very appealing. But unfortunately, that's the way most businesses have gone over the last century. If anything, farming is just now catching up, because the march of progress has been slowed down by a lot of governmental programs and subsidies that have kept one of the last widespread family businesses operating longer than they otherwise would have. Bigger is better, and the market is starting to reflect this reality. Pasture land, which is land for grazing livestock, as opposed to cropland, which is for growing crops, has increased in value even faster. This land is a lot less carefully managed than cropland, and it doesn't need to be on a nice flat ground to allow for mechanical harvesting, so it's worth substantially less per acre. But its value has been growing faster, and this type of land makes up a majority share of the portfolios of the people who are actually the largest landowners in America. The Emerson family, who currently own 2.4 million acres of land in California, Oregon, and Washington, primarily use it for lumber farming. The remaining top 10 are mainly cattle ranchers. Bill Gates, on the other hand, only owns about a tenth of this with about 275,000 acres, which makes him the 42nd largest private landowner in America. It also puts him behind Jeff Bezos, who has 420,000 acres, according to the annual land report survey. So, do better, Bill. Now, right there is probably the least obvious and most underestimated reason why farms have become such a popular investment so quickly. Billionaires and even institutional investors are not above the temptations of human nature. Farmland values have been spiking, and within these small circles, nobody wants to be left out of the big new investment opportunity. Owning land is like owning anything. Some people just want to see the number go up. If you were a billionaire and you could ignore the potential implications of owning that much of a vital resource as an asset line, you gotta admit, it would be pretty cool to own more land than Puerto Rico. As money has moved into the market, it has further increased prices, making people even more excited to claim their own share of America. It's like crypto, only instead of doing absolutely nothing, it feeds the country. Farmers don't have that much control over the market price of their produce, because there has typically been so much competition and only a small handful of buyers. One of the biggest implications of this farmland consolidation is that this dynamic could reverse. Go and watch this video on why everything has become a monopoly to find out why that could become the only viable business model for these mega farms. And if you want to get these videos a day early, alongside articles that will never be made into YouTube videos, make sure to sign up to my completely free email newsletter to keep on learning how money works.
Not you too.
Last week, between record market crashes and rebounds, endless election nonsense, and the wrapping up of the Olympic Games, one of the most important legal verdicts ever was being made. District Judge Amit Mehta ruled that Google was a monopolist and acted as one to maintain its own monopoly. This surprised absolutely nobody. But it also surprised everybody, because every trillion-dollar company in the world today is a monopoly of some kind, illegal or otherwise. The market assumption was that regulators would keep looking the other way and let this happen forever. But that is changing, which is bad news for corporate America, because I don't know if you've noticed, but there aren't that many companies anymore. For an alarming amount of major companies, becoming a monopoly isn't just a good way to maximize profit. It's the only way they can make a profit.
Hey Tyler, Google has lost its Department of Justice antitrust suit, the judge finding that it violated antitrust law. The distribution agreements were found to be anti-competitive and in violation of Section 2 of the Sherman Act.
Dollars they pay to Apple, but they pay similar amounts to Samsung, Motorola, LG.
I worked with a couple interns last year, and every intern that I've seen come on has just exuded.
It's a monopolist, and it has acted as one to maintain its monopoly.
Not all monopolies are necessarily illegal, and, hot take alert, some of them can even be good for consumers. A company is allowed to have market dominance if their product is better than all their competitors, or if no competitors even bother trying to compete because one company has such a commanding lead. Google, for a long time, had the best search engine on the internet. That's a bit more questionable these days, but people choose to Google things because that would normally give them the best search results. That's not illegal, unless that company uses its market dominance to entrench its position and make it harder for others to compete. Today, there are lots of search engines that are just as good, if not better, than Google. What Google actually got in trouble for was paying companies like Apple billions of dollars every year to make their search engine the default on their mobile phones, which made it much harder for these alternative search engines to compete. Because, let's be honest with ourselves, who is changing the search engine default options on our phones? Obviously, I am not a lawyer, and while I did consult one while writing this brief outline, if you ever find yourself running a Fortune 500 company, you probably shouldn't use a YouTube video as a guide on how to enact anti-competitive measures. Now, the reason this otherwise standard antitrust lawsuit is such a big deal is because monopolies have become an epidemic in the modern corporate world for 3 simple reasons. The first reason is that there is simply more opportunity than ever to create a monopoly. The goods and services that we consume are far more varied today than they have ever been at any point, even in modern history. 4 decades ago, there weren't any search engines to monopolize, and the world's biggest companies made far more basic products. Take US Steel and Nvidia. Both of these companies were the most valuable in the world at their respective fields. Both of them made products primarily to service other businesses, and both of them were at the forefront of an industrial trend. US Steel was making, well, steel right as America was on a building spree, and Nvidia is making H100 GPUs right as the world is pumping AI into everything. The difference is that steel beams are an extremely basic product compared to cutting-edge proprietary microprocessors. According to company filings, Nvidia sold 150,000 of these chips to Microsoft alone, and another 150,000 to Meta, so that the companies could accelerate the rate in which the internet is turned into procedurally generated slop. Every single one of these GPUs sells for around $25,000 according to Barron's, but it only costs the company a few $100s to manufacture. Nvidia can get away with charging these margins because it is a monopoly, and these companies have literally nowhere else to go. Nvidia owns the market for AI compute because it has developed CUDA, which is the industry standard for building machine learning models. Remember, dominating a market because you can undercut your competitors or force suppliers not to work with them is illegal. But monopolizing a market because your product is better is completely fair game. It's hard to make steel beams so good that any other steel beam is literally unusable by comparison. So after antitrust laws were introduced, it was much harder to maintain a monopoly with a basic product, but even more profitable to maintain one with advanced products. I only used it as an example because talking about Nvidia in a video makes the YouTube algorithm recommend this video about Nvidia to people who want confirmation that their Nvidia shares are going to make them rich. Apple creates a monopoly with its product ecosystem. Microsoft has an effective monopoly on operating systems outside of Apple products. Google has a monopoly on search engine and online video. Aramco has a monopoly on Saudi oil, and Meta has a monopoly on boomer memes. These are the companies that have made it to the promised land of market dominance. But there are also trillions of dollars being invested into companies that do nothing but take market share. Food delivery, ride-sharing, and even AI applications tend to lose a lot of money, and are only kept alive by constant investor funding rounds. The only way that these businesses make sense is if they outlast their competitors by achieving market share through a product that is often made more appealing than it really ought to be by selling it below cost. Companies like Lucid Motors, Uber, and OpenAI lose money on every new customer and user they gain, but their investors don't care as long as they are gaining market share. If those companies do become a monopoly, then they can fatten up their margins and join the trillion-dollar club with the other tech monopolies. Now, this all sounds pretty dystopian, but in some rare circumstances, it can actually be good for you as a regular person. For a while, you could enjoy incredibly cheap food delivery, which was partially paid for by some Silicon Valley venture capitalists. And the user experience of streaming movies was better when Netflix controlled the entire streaming market. So it's time to learn how money works to find out why the good types of monopolies don't last and why we are suddenly getting so many of the bad kind instead. This week's video is sponsored by TripleTen. I know many of you are sitting at work right now thinking you'd rather be working on something more fulfilling, and something that you know will be relevant for many years to come. TripleTen is an online education platform offering flexible, beginner-friendly boot camps with the highest graduation and employment rates in the industry. Whether you're looking to increase your income or work remotely, TripleTen can help you get there with a get a job or get a refund guarantee and 87% of graduates getting hired in 6 months or less. The boot camps cover various technology fields, providing real company projects for hands-on experience, making it ideal for anyone with any background to transition into tech. What sets TripleTen apart is its flexible financing options, including installments and success-based plans, attractive deals for upfront payments, and unlimited externship opportunities even after graduation. TripleTen ensures you reach your goals with top-notch guidance and support. Over 1,000 students have already changed their careers and now work in tech thanks to TripleTen. Change your career today with TripleTen. Get 30% off all programs by clicking on the link in the description. Transform your career into tech with TripleTen today. Across the world, there are thousands of businesses being started with the sole intention of just being acquired by a larger, more established company, or more recently, a private equity firm. Tax structures have incentivized investors and entrepreneurs to seek an exit over building a sustainable business that provides them with non-capital gains income over the long term. According to the corporate law firm White & Case, global mergers and acquisitions volume has tripled over the last 2 decades alone. One of the best ways to build a monopoly is to just buy out every other competitor, which is exactly what has been happening. Just this week, the global food giant Mars agreed to purchase Kellanova, the makers of Pringles and other snack foods, for $36 billion. This is one of the largest corporate acquisitions ever in an industry that is already dominated by a small handful of companies. With food prices as high as they are, more corporate consolidation isn't going to help. But it's only getting more popular because of the second reason, which is that it's just becoming so easy. Big companies have a lot of cash, and they've been able to borrow even more at very low interest rates for a very long time. Even now, after recent rate hikes, interest on institutional borrowing is much cheaper than it was for most of American corporate history. This has made it really easy for companies to buy every company in their field, and it's made it possible to build businesses where the only way that the founders will ever make any money is by selling it to someone else. You are watching this video right now on YouTube, which was acquired by Google before it made any money. And today, it's the company's largest revenue center outside of search advertising. The growth of private equity has helped this as well by providing another exit opportunity to company owners. Private equity acquisitions are normally smaller in scale, but that doesn't mean that they can't create monopolies. A common business strategy employed by private equity is to roll up businesses. If you ever find yourself as a private equity manager, here is how you would do that. You would buy up lots of local businesses from their owners. Depending on the size of your fund, these will most likely be small and unglamorous businesses like plumbing companies, HVAC shops, or local mechanics. These businesses are actually great acquisition targets because they make a nice stable profit and the owners don't have as many options to sell as a bigger, better-known company, which means if they want to retire or step away from their business, you are one of the only people they can get money from. Your next step is to centralize operations like booking, accounting, marketing, and customer support into one office. This cuts down on costs, but it also means that your businesses aren't going to be competing with one another. No private equity fund is going to be able to buy all of the mechanic shops in America, but you don't need to. If you own all the shops in a local area, you still have a monopoly. It's just a local monopoly, and unless people want to drive 2 hours to get their car fixed, they are going to have to pay what you ask. This is actually even better than the big global monopolies, because you are way less likely to get in trouble with the FTC because you are too small to show up on their radar. Not that it really matters, because of the third reason why everything is a monopoly these days. So this probably won't come as a shock to you, but regulators like the FTC and their equivalents in other countries haven't been doing the best job of fighting back against monopolies. These organizations have 2 strategies that they are supposed to use. The first is by blocking mergers or acquisitions that it deems as creating a monopoly. Remember, a monopoly can only exist if market power is achieved through a better product. So, merging 2 or more companies together that would have too much market power is technically against the rules. The second strategy is by breaking up companies that get too big into smaller competing companies like what happened with AT&T and Standard Oil. The problem is that it hasn't really been doing either. In fact, the big famous corporate breakups of the 20th century have regressed and they are slowly merging back together again. Monopolies are the natural state of businesses, and unless the authorities do something to address it, even companies that were famously broken up will eventually return back to the monopolistic equilibrium. According to public data compiled by the Washington Center for Equitable Growth, funding for the FTC and the Department of Justice's Antitrust Division has been cut progressively since 2008, even though deal volume and complexity has massively increased since then, which means they are trying to do more with less. The FTC also has to take companies to court before they can block mergers or break companies up, which means they can only pursue so many cases at a given time. There is also the not-so-secret revolving door between people that are supposed to be regulating these companies and high-paying jobs working for the companies themselves. Joseph Simons was the former chairman of the Federal Trade Commission. After he left office, he became partner at the law firm Paul Weiss, a law firm that specializes in corporate mergers and acquisitions. The chairwoman before him is now partner at Wilson Sonsini, one of the largest corporate law firms in the world. And you'll never guess it, but the chairwoman before her also became partner at a law firm specializing in mergers and acquisitions. If you ever get appointed to the chair of the FTC, there is a genuine incentive to do a good job, but not too much of a good job that you can't get a high-paying job in the private sector as soon as your appointment is finished. The current chair, Lena Khan, is among the most aggressive FTC leaders to hold the position in recent decades, and she has pushed through some genuine wins like this recent Google ruling and the banning of non-compete agreements. This has also made her extremely unpopular with business figures lobbying openly for her removal. So unfortunately, there probably isn't any partner position waiting for her at a prestigious law firm once her appointment is finished. Now, buried in here is the most damaging thing that monopolies do. They are bad for consumers, but they are much worse for workers. If you work in an industry controlled by a monopoly, you literally have nowhere else to go, which means they can get away with paying you just enough to keep you from retraining somewhere else. Getting rid of non-competes makes this a lot harder for companies to do, so you should go and watch that video next. I will also be writing an article on this week's mega merger from my perspective as a former investment banker, who used to work on deals just like this. You can read that and other articles like it on my totally free email newsletter linked in the video description. So sign up to keep on learning how money works.
Talk to Royce. Dex sent us.
Business decisions made in the interest of maximizing shareholder value have caused mass layoffs, environmental catastrophes, an endless list of corporate frauds, and record inequality in the workplace. The very same CEO who made millions of dollars by being the first champion of maximizing shareholder value in the 60s called it the dumbest idea in the world, and something that could rock capitalism to its core. But worst of all, maximizing shareholder value isn't even good for the shareholders.
Indeed, managers, the CEO have a fiduciary duty to their shareholders to be concerned only with the bottom line. We think this is wrong, a serious mistake.
But continue to create the capacity to be able to reward our shareholders as we have done in 2023 and as we hope to continue to do in 2024.
Roundtable today sparking a debate about the purpose of a corporation and why maximizing shareholder returns is no longer the main goal.
If you hate your job, here is a history lesson for you that might make it start to make sense. In 1916, the Ford Motor Company had revolutionized the automobile industry with the Ford Model T. Henry Ford, the founder and majority stockholder of the company, wanted to use the surplus cash they had accumulated to build additional plants and hire even more workers to build even more cars. Ford had also famously and controversially raised factory worker wages significantly and offered benefits like the 40-hour work week. In press interviews, Ford spoke about his plans for the company. My ambition is to employ still more men, to spread the benefits of the industrial system to the greatest possible number, to help them build up their lives and their homes. To do this, we are putting the greatest share of our profits back into the business. This angered minority shareholders in the company that just wanted him to lower wages again, raise the price of the Model T, and keep paying them a regular dividend. Since Ford was the majority shareholder in the company, though, their options were limited. So, they took him to court. But the court sided with the minority shareholders. Ford was forced to consider the best interests of shareholders above his other business ambitions. This was the case that set the precedent for shareholder primacy in America, meaning the board of directors and executives in a company must always try to maximize shareholder value to the best of their ability. Some have mistaken this ruling to mean that CEOs and the boards that appoint them have a legal mandate to maximize shareholder value. But the reality is that this simply isn't true. The case was awarded in favor of the minority shareholders, but it upheld the business judgment rule, which means that executives can do what they believe is in the best interest of the company, even if it doesn't make the number on a stock chart go up. Ford himself wasn't paying his workers more and making new jobs because he wanted to be nice. He was a ruthless businessman who wanted to control a larger share of the growing automobile market. By paying his workers better and offering them higher wages, he was just denying his competitors a workforce. And by pricing his Model Ts just above cost, he made it almost impossible for any other manufacturer to sell a profitable budget automobile. The biggest irony of all of this is the minority shareholders that took Ford to court were John and Horace Dodge. They owned about 10% of the company and used their special dividends to fund growth of their own company, Dodge, a car maker that would eventually become one of Ford Motors' biggest rivals. So this court ruling was bad for the company's leaders, bad for workers, bad for the country, and bad for the shareholders in Ford who sacrificed market dominance for a quick payday. But there are 3 reasons why people still believe in maximizing shareholder value, and 3 reasons why companies that operate this way are almost guaranteed to fail. So it's time to learn how money works to find out how the worst idea in business history became the new normal for corporate America. This week's lesson is sponsored by Delete Me. Did you know that your personal data is sold online by data brokers? You have the right to your privacy and to protect your personal data. When data brokers sell your data, it puts you at risk, including the risk of identity theft and being stalked. Delete Me helps you keep your personal info private. I personally use Delete Me, and it's pulled my information away from a variety of data brokers. And the process is easy. It's a hands-free subscription service that removes your personal information that's being sold online, including your phone number and home address. Simply submit your info, let the experts find it, and get it removed from the internet. And afterwards, it monitors sites and repeats removal as needed, all on autopilot during the length of your subscription. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/HMW and use promo code HMW at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HMW, code HMW.
Gotta have a good source.
Corporate America didn't always have the dangerous obsession with shareholder value that it does today. And even after the landmark Dodge versus Ford case in 1919, companies were slow to change. Between the mid-1960s and 1970s, American stock markets traded mostly sideways. Corporate CEOs still had a duty to do what was best for the company, but they were paid a normal salary and a small bonus just like every other normal employee. According to the Economic Policy Institute and the National Bureau of Labor Statistics, CEOs at this time made around 20 times as much as the average employee of their company. So they were still rich, but not so rich that they could retire after one good year. Their motivation was primarily to keep the company running safely so they could maintain their well-paid jobs for as long as possible. By the 1990s, a small group of financiers got the idea that in order to grow to get better returns from their companies, they should align the interests of their CEO with their own interests of getting the stock price as high as possible. They did this by paying the CEOs a smaller cash salary, but added stock options that directly tied CEO bonuses to stock performance. In the 1990s, CEO compensation went from 60 times average worker pay to 380 times average worker pay. My friend Patrick Boyle did a great video on how this small change in corporate norms eventually led to people like Elon Musk demanding $50 billion in compensation for 1 year's work. Now that there was so much money to be made, CEOs and other senior executives were happy to go along with the lie that it was their legal duty to maximize shareholder value, even if it would destroy their companies in the long term. The first strategy they used was picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. It won't surprise you that some of the biggest companies in the world have taken dumb risks. We have seen some of the biggest corporate bankruptcies in history happen in just the past 24 months, and it's becoming more common. If you are a CEO with a multi-million-dollar bonus package on the table, you are going to do everything in your power to tick the boxes you need for the board to grant you that bonus. A top priority for you as the CEO is going to be to increase your company stock price, pay a big dividend, or both. Most bonuses are awarded year to year, and according to Fortune magazine, the average tenure of a Fortune 500 CEO is now only 7 years. For you, big projects that could pay off over decades are effectively useless, unless their announcement could drive up your stock price. But even that's unlikely. Investors rarely care about long-term business strategies because they so rarely come true anyway. Your best strategy is to control bad publicity and focus on next quarter's financials. An easy place to cut expenses is in areas like security, auditing, risk management, safety controls, long-term development, and training. If you cut these enough, you might even increase revenue at the same time, because sales staff and revenue centers can operate more freely without pesky compliance departments making sure things aren't being done illegally. Silicon Valley Bank, one of the largest bank failures in American history, had a risk management department that regulators described as terrible. That's about the harshest thing that financial regulators say about anything. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt because it couldn't say no to the revenue it was making from subprime mortgage bonds. Boeing's repeated string of airline failures has been blamed on a push to get new planes into the air by cutting down on safety controls and testing. HSBC, one of the biggest banks in the world, made billions of dollars in revenue by providing financial services to international criminals. People have lost their jobs, lost savings, and lost their lives in these scandals. But worse than all of that, the shareholders lost billions of dollars from scandals like these and others that are too numerous to list. But the CEOs that ultimately oversaw the companies making these terrible risk trade-offs already made their enormous bonuses, and some of them even got a golden parachute on the way out. Business departments like risk management and cybersecurity have tough jobs. If everything is going well, people question what good they are doing for the business. If things are going badly, people question what good they are doing for the business. You can make a little money by picking up pennies in front of a steamroller, but if something goes wrong, you get smushed all for a few dollars. The short-sighted nature of CEOs mandated to maximize shareholder value is also the second reason it's one of the worst ideas in the history of business. It guarantees that businesses become worse. Jack Welch was the chairman and CEO of General Electric from 1981 to 2001. He worked his way up in the company from an entry-level position, but upon stepping into the top job, he radically reshaped the company in the name of the shareholders. Welch made 72,000 of GE's 400,000 employees redundant. He sold off entire company divisions, and he invested heavily in financial and media arms of the business. GE Capital became the primary focus of an engineering company that made consumer appliances, commercial machinery, and aerospace parts. Welch also pioneered outsourcing and bragged about it on CNBC, a news network he created to focus on business news after GE acquired NBC. His ruthless strategy worked, and during his 20 years as CEO, GE's stock price rose from $6 a share to a high of almost $370 a share a year before being asked to walk away from the company. He did, but not before being awarded an exit package estimated at $417 million. Other CEOs who were now getting paid mainly with stock options saw this maverick CEO talking about his strategies on his own news network, and they figured they couldn't argue with the results. According to data from the Economic Policy Institute, the year that Jack Welch took over as the CEO of General Electric was the last year when increases in worker productivity kept pace with increases in wages. Make of that what you would. Welch's focus on shareholder above every other stakeholder in the business worked well for a long time. But since he was pushed out of the company, the stock price of GE has fallen by roughly 70% from its all-time high, even during a record bull run where the market is up by 400%. GE used to make high-quality products that customers were highly loyal to. GE's outsourcing delivered worse products to the market, leading customers to buy from other brands. GE used to be one of the most attractive companies to work for because they were stable, paid well, and let employees, like Jack Welch himself, work their way up the corporate ladder. GE's CEO proudly boasting about mass layoffs and firing the bottom 10% of staff every year meant it became one of the least desirable companies to work for, so top talent went elsewhere. By sacrificing customers and employees to appease shareholders, they made it worse for them too. Welch himself even said in an interview that maximizing shareholder value was stupid. A high stock price is the result of doing everything else correctly. Why didn't he follow his own advice? Well, because he made too much money by keeping the people that paid him happy. During Welch's tenure as CEO, GE was almost suspiciously good at meeting financial goals. Roger Martin, the dean of the Rotman School of Business at the University of Toronto, said in an interview with Forbes that GE met or beat analyst forecasts in 46 of 48 quarters between December 31st, 1989 and September 30th, 2001, a 96% hit rate. Even more impressive, in 41 of those 46 quarters, GE hit the analyst forecast to the exact penny, 89% perfection. Of course, this wasn't amazing management. It was good old-fashioned creative accounting, a practice that got GE in hot water with the SEC and was part of the reason why Welch was eventually asked to nicely leave the company. Despite his tarnished record, Welch's business practices are still common in a lot of corporate boardrooms across the world. Okay, so you might ask, if encouraging CEOs to pursue short-term gains has shown to be bad for everyone, including the shareholders who appoint the board, who employ the CEO, why are companies still doing this? Well, that's because the third reason why maximizing shareholder value is a terrible idea for everyone. The short term is all that matters. According to data from the largest stock exchanges in America, the average holding period for stocks has been consistently declining for decades. In 1975, investors held onto stocks for an average of 5 years. In 2021, they held onto them for less than 1 year. Electronic brokerages have made buying and selling shares much easier. And people are generally in financial situations that are much less secure where selling shares becomes a way to cover an unexpected expense. That's not how long-term investing should be done, but staying ahead financially these days is hard. The largest dips in shareholder holding periods happened in 2001 and 2008, during down markets and job losses where people were probably selling at a loss on their holdings but needed to cover their expenses one way or another. Long-term capital gains tax laws also encourage people to seek profits from buying and selling year to year rather than a dividend strategy which can be less tax efficient. The result is that if people are holding onto shares for less time, then they also only care about short-term wins. So a CEO that delivers a profitable fourth quarter will be more popular than a CEO who reinvests company earnings into training, R&D, or safety that won't pay off for years. This kind of short-term thinking is not sustainable. but that's another shareholder and CEO's problem. But this isn't the only way. I am going to write an op-ed on business and leadership teams that I have worked with in the real world that are doing things a little bit differently to great success on my totally free email newsletter Compounded Daily. For free articles like this, and to get access to these videos a day early, sign up for that in the description below. If you want to see just how bad things can get in the name of shareholder value, go and watch my video on the deadly monetization of nursing homes to find out how this exact business strategy has caused the death of tens of thousands of vulnerable Americans. And don't forget to like and subscribe to keep on learning how money works.
Oh, what a terrible thing it would be to be a Ubisoft employee and wake up this beautiful Monday morning. A severe case of the Mondays of astronomical proportions as Ubisoft is experiencing fallout with its own investors as their Star Wars Outlaws game is failing financially and their company's stocks are tanking. We're going to go through it today by first looking at Ubisoft stock prices on Yahoo Finance. I pulled it up. You guys have to see how their company has done during the entirety of their existence. In 2014 September, they were at 13 euros, or close to around that number, and since then, almost 10 years later exactly, they are now at the same price as their stocks have tanked, to which investors are blaming that on the quarterly revenue. But many people know that Star Wars Outlaws has a lot to do with this, as well as the
I don't think it's just Star Wars Outlaws. I totally disagree. I think that there's been a general decline in quality of Ubisoft games in the last 5 years. And I think that's reflected in the data. So when you see a graph like this, it's not like there's one thing on this graph that caused it to happen. It's like the Prince of Persia games not being very good. The Assassin's Creed games, like Valhalla was very popular, but it's certainly not Assassin's Creed in the same way, right? And I want Splinter Cell. Yeah, Splinter Cell is like not really even a thing anymore as far as I know. So there's a lot of games that have come out. Skull and Bones is another one. That game, I guarantee you, lost money. So this has been a pattern of behavior, and it makes sense that investors are getting fed up with it. I mean, if I was an investor, I'd be fucking furious.
Assassin's Creed Shadows controversy. It seems that this company cannot catch a break no matter what they do.
And this is the problem, right? Is that like we see the Assassin's Creed. Like, and I showed this before. Like, if you look at the actual combat in gameplay, like the very, very small snippets that they've showed you, it looks pretty bad. Like, if you look at the combat in Assassin's Creed, the game was very, very bad. Like, the gameplay and, like, the actual combat itself was awful.
A couple of days ago, it seems, when they had these investors meetings, when they were having these conversations on how to proceed with their games and their company, they took a nosedive. And one explanation provided by a user shows that it may be because the investors let it happen. As you can see here, on the 5th of September, the price was up to $14.70, and then it just dipped all the way down to $13.45. Now, of course, as usual, people love to buy into the dip, and then they were able to recover it about a quarter of the way, but we know how these things go. Even when it recovers, it will eventually take another nosedive if the trend is to be trusted. And the reason I say that is because it's happened before. A couple of days ago, it took a nosedive, and then people tried to help it recover, but failed. And then it happened again prior with a nosedive.
Well, it's people that are buying the dip, hoping that it's going to go back up, but it just keeps going lower. It's like you think you hit rock bottom, and they just manage to keep on digging. Like, if the next showcase for Assassin's Creed doesn't go absolutely crazy, I could see it take another massive drop.
Dive, and then people tried to help it recover but failed, and that is a trend that you see repeat itself over and over, and it has gotten progressively worse ever since the release of the Star Wars Outlaws game. So let's take a look at this post from Dr. Sirkin Toto. I don't want to beat this to death, but Ubisoft stock in Paris is currently dropping another 9%. Market cap is down to 1.7 billion euros, or US $1.9 billion. And yes, Ubisoft is seriously going through it. Now, of course, this is a quote tweet from a previous tweet he made. Investors seem very disappointed about Star Wars Outlaws sales numbers and let Ubisoft stock crash. So this might actually explain.
The game just looked awful. I mean, it really, like, it just looked awful. And I think that's the real reason why it happened. I mean, like, losing 80% in 4 years is insane. It's unreal. Looked like DEI. It looked like the exact type of game that was made for people that like to be offended. And it was like made for Twitter, where it's like you can't kill the animals, but you can pet them. Like all of the characters are like super bland, and you can only steal from police officers. Just such a such an obnoxious representation. You can't rob anyone? Yeah, exactly. It's like you can be an outlaw, but you can only do good things, basically.
Why Ubisoft took such a huge hit, at least financially from within its own investor
Modern, safe dog
Shares
shit,
lost
yep.
over 10% combined in the last 2 days, so the company just slipped to under $2 billion in market cap in Paris. Ubisoft is almost at a 10-year low.
Can you imagine
now,
if you were
know
invested in this?
Ubisoft was
You'd be
having
fucking
meetings
furious.
about this.
Yeah.
They were having meetings about how to proceed with both their games and with their business. And now investors
Well, it was just stupid, right? It was stupid. They should have... Like, I don't know what the idea is. Like, if you look at the Star Wars, like, if you go look at any Star Wars convention, and you look at who's there, it's a bunch of guys. Like, you can't make a female-centric Star Wars story and then expect the same male audience to buy that game at the same ratio that they're gonna buy the other ones at. Like, it's so crazy to me that such an obvious reality that any normal person can see that's evident and right in front of them is somehow, like, unimaginable by a multi-billion-dollar company. Well, not multi anymore, as we can see, but by a billion-dollar company. Unless she's hot. Yeah, unless the character is really hot. That's true. It's a bunch of guys with lightsabers. Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you mean? Like, of course girls like Star Wars. There's plenty of girls that like Star Wars, but there's way more guys. And if you look at guys that are like, who's playing a lot of PC games? Guys. Like, you're looking action combat shooting games, guys are playing those fucking games.
Writing open letters to this company, not only asking for structural and strategic changes, but they're now asking for prices to be lowered, staff to be fired, and for the removal of the CEO himself. You guys have...
Good. That's what needs to happen. That's exactly what needs to happen. Yeah, get rid of the people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're wasting your investment money, and then replace them with people that know what they're doing. You used to work at Ubisoft, CEO director of the game. 2014, the Corpo suits took over. Maybe, I don't know. Yeah, maybe that's the case.
Have to see this story for yourself so that you understand how bad this is for Ubisoft. This is from Tech Raptor. Activist Ubisoft investor calls for strategic and structural change, and I've also seen this story on the Wall Street Journal, although I did not provide that story.
A lot of people have linked it to me already.
A company that serves as a significant minority shareholder. These guys have a lot of money in this company. Ubisoft has called for major structural and strategic change at the studio and has expressed deep dissatisfaction with Ubisoft's current direction. So they are not happy with what Ubisoft is doing, as well as millions of gamers out there. But hey, let's not listen to them. Their opinions don't matter. In an open letter to Ubisoft's board of directors, which CC's CEO Yves Guillemot and stakeholder Tencent, investment company AJ Investments criticizes Ubisoft's current performance and strategic direction.
It's very obvious that there's something that's wrong. Skull and Bones was a massive failure. All you have to do is look at the game. I mean, it was a massive failure even if you look at just like, especially the design of the game. The game looked like shit, hardly anybody is playing it, and it probably cost over $100 million to make. So you have Skull and Bones, Star Wars Outlaws, and seemingly Assassin's Creed, all three of these games be total fucking dog shit, or at least presumed to be dog shit. That's a pattern. I mean, that's a yeah, and yeah, you've got it, Tank Jobs, exactly. Yeah, not a finished game. That's a fucking pattern right there. You've got to
Just so
change
you all
it.
know, AJ Investments is a hedge fund in Slovakia. So these guys are all about investments. They invest into anything. And in fact, Raptor here says that
Yep.
they are an activist investment company. AJ Investments says Ubisoft's recent quarterly results, which saw upcoming releases The Division Resurgence and Rainbow Six Mobile pushed back beyond March next year, have heightened its concerns about management's ability to deliver results for shareholders. So they don't trust Ubisoft to be able to deliver anymore, and now they're calling them out for that. They set out 4 proposals to increase the value of Ubisoft for all stakeholders. They include allowing Ubisoft to go private, selling the company, changing current management, and ousting Guillermo as CEO. They're like, get rid of this guy.
Bro, they just want to flip the board over. God damn. They have a Rainbow Six wheelchair operator. I think that's also another really big problem. And I do think that, like, it's definitely ideology first and gameplay second with these guys. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to use the game to, like, push some sort of, like, agenda. Like, why would you ever want to have a person in a wheelchair? Like, in what universe, in a Rainbow Six situation, would you want to have a person in a wheelchair? Like, it's such a ridiculous concept that, like, when you take a step back and you just think about it for more than a few seconds, you'd realize this is the stupidest, dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard. It's so outrageous. Yeah, stairs are in the game. Yeah, how the fuck does that work? Right, only if he's a hacker? Well, even then, it still just doesn't make sense. And so it's about some sort of a message. Yeah, it's weird, man. And I think anybody can see this.
Ruining everything, and he's making us all go broke. The DEI initiative apparently is not working, or at least whatever strategic play Ubisoft has had in the works for some time. It just
I don't think that it's as simple as saying because of DEI Ubisoft's bad. I think that, like, if you actually get down to the nuts and bolts of the gameplay in these games, the gameplay is bad. Like, the DNA of the game is bad. Yeah, you can say, oh, well, you know, it's a female lead character, so people aren't that interested. Sure, yeah, true. Maybe that is one. But if you actually look at the gameplay itself, it's also garbage.
has not been doing them any favors, especially in the money market. As for its reasoning, AJ investors say that Ubisoft is being mismanaged and that shareholders are currently hostages of Guillermo family members and Tencent who take advantage of them. So not only are they saying that the CEO should be ousted because of his mismanagement of the company, but they are also saying that they're hostages to him and his family who have control of the majority of the company. So they're saying his whole family needs to be gone. This is incredible, guys. The company goes on to say that it cannot understand Ubisoft's management strategy and that the studio seems more focused on pleasing investors rather than providing an exceptional experience for its fans. And this is something that
I think that's true. And that's what happens with any publicly made company, is that the company tries to like think really big picture and develop some sort of like crazy big new game. And they start trying to like, oh, who's our target audience? Well, this game is made for everyone. Okay, yeah, sure. Okay, so nobody's gonna like it. Got it. Understood. So yeah, customers are always right. Exactly. And so I think that in the process of trying to like manage and like make as much money as possible for like the investors, they've done the opposite because they're not providing a good experience. Like a good experience provides money to the investors. Money to the investors does not necessarily provide a good experience.
The game was insane for the longest time, for months, maybe even years when it comes to Ubisoft specifically.
Yeah.
This company has no idea how to handle its video games, it has no idea how to handle its fans, and it has no idea especially how to handle criticism. And criticism is one of the biggest things that they have had to endure. AJ investors claim that many of the studio's IPs, including Rayman, Watch Dogs, and Splinter Cell, are being underutilized. And I agree with that. When is the last time we had a Splinter Cell game? That's right, a year before Ubisoft's stock prices started to go up.
Yeah, I can't even think of that.
Has not seen a title in over a decade, ever since the last one that came out in 2013. There are other games that Ubisoft is neglecting in order to push games like Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows, games that are riddled in controversy of different natures, different types, and are being stolen.
Well, I think the problem is that like a lot of the developers think that their view on the situation is more accurate than the public's view on the situation. And so because they can categorize the people that don't like Assassin's Creed Shadows, for example, as like, oh, well, they just don't like it because they're racist or something like that, that doesn't make them like it. And so the problem is that these people are coping, and they're saying, well, you know, they shouldn't think like this. They shouldn't like this is terrible. They should be able to say this. But that doesn't actually change people's minds. So what ends up happening, yeah, everybody else is wrong. Yeah, if you say everybody else is wrong for long enough, well, then you're not going to have anybody that's paying attention to the content. So it's that simple. Yeah, so AIDS, yeah, I think that's what's really happening, is that they're not actually listening to what the customers want, and nobody at the company is holding them accountable to that, because doing that would be empowering a voice of a group of people that they consider to be bad. So it's basically like, we have this problem, we know this problem exists, but if you speak on the problem, now you're the enemy. And I think that's what's happening. Like, that's exactly what I think is happening. Some wannabe renegade investor group, they're looking for a headline and own less than 1%. Well, I think that there's a lot of investors, like, I mean, does it really take a lot of brain power to assume that a graph going down like this would warrant people being concerned? I think that obviously they're concerned. Yeah, of course. Let's not notice the elephant in the room. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the real problem. And they're not taking that feedback and providing a product that the customers want, because they think that their view on the product is more important than the product itself. Or actually, it's more important than the customer's view on the product. And if they have a product that is like a moral superior, that then customers are like obligated or something to buy it.
Vilified by gamers everywhere. Now the stock prices are dropping, investors are panicking, and requests like these are being made. The company does, however, say that Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown was merely okay. Yeah, I guess it was okay. I've never played it. I have played the other Prince of Persias because I actually love the original games, but that nobody talks about the game anymore, which is also true. I don't see anybody talking about it. That's probably because it's a single-player game everyone's finished, guys. Not every game needs to be headline news every day of the week, which I also...
Retarded argument. Fucking stupid retarded argument. That's not true at all. People are talking about Elden Ring all the time now, still. People are talking about Baldur's Gate all the time now, still. People always are going to be talking about the game. You want to know the real reason why Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown didn't succeed? There's two reasons. Number one, it wasn't on Steam. Number two, it was too expensive. And also, there is a number three, where side-scroller and Metroidvania-style games are not viewed as AAA products in the consumer's eyes. So I played this game, and I thought the game was actually quite good. I thought the game played very well. It was enjoyable. I liked it a lot. But the reality is that it was $60 on release, and the other games inside of this market are just simply way more than that. Or sorry, way less than that. Like, look at Blasphemous 2. Look at Hollow Knight. Like, all of these games, like, if you go to market with a game like this, and your game is of this way higher price, well, then you're really not going to sell anything. It's not AAA, yeah, but people expect that level of quality. If you're asking people to spend $60, they're going to be looking for a AAA experience. And I have no problem paying $60 for a Metroidvania game, but it's very clear that other people did. And I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but it was not on Steam. So, like, you had to download an entire new program, like Epic Games. Like, you're massively nerfing your product by putting it on some other platform like this. I don't want to download it from some other platform. Like, there are a lot of games that I just don't even play if they're not on Steam. And it's not that the Epic Games Launcher is, like, really that bad, but it's that it's worse. The Epic Games Launcher is 100% worse than Steam. And by the way, that's bad. It's bad. It's in everybody here's best interest for the Epic Games Launcher to be as good as Steam. Because that way we have a competitive marketplace where obviously competition will breed excellence and it will improve the products that we have. So it's very problematic that Epic can't get their shit together. The game was $40, I just looked it up. Oh, it was $40? I think that you could have been right, but they had an early access for $60. I could have been a little bit wrong on that, but even $40 for a side-scroller game like this is just not what people are looking to do. You can't even send messages to people on your Epic friends list? Yeah. Epic won't have reviews on purpose, so it's automatically a worse platform. Yeah, people just aren't... Like, Steam is a platform that puts its users first. Epic is a platform that puts developers first. So, big surprise. You have a lot of developers that like Epic and a lot of customers that like Steam. But the problem is that people forgot who actually controls the market. The real people that control the market are not the developers, it's the players. The players have always had all the control. The customer always has all the power.
So agree with, and they have provided the letter with these requested changes that I'm going to read through just a little bit so that you can have receipts to share with all of your buddies. But further on into the letter, AJ Investors proposes several ways by which Ubisoft could improve its performance and its standing with shareholders. They include taking the company private for a fair price, as well as laying off staff, a procedure AJ Investors rather callously referred to as optimizing staff levels. So they're like trying to be super friendly when they say, fire all these people. They're making things worse. Other recommendations include refocusing on core IPs and another call for changes in management. This letter comes after industry analyst Cirkin Toto, which is the guy I just referred to, pointed out last week that investors seem very disappointed about the sales of Star Wars Outlaws, with shares dipping 10% in just 2 days. So I think there is validity to the claim that
anybody could have said this was going to be bad. Like, and that's the problem, is that they clearly have a direction with making these games, and it's like with Outlaws especially, it was astonishing to me that people, like, after playing the game myself, I was really shocked that anybody thought it was good. Like, even like just the combat, like the melee, the cinematics, like everything about it was bad. How did you let this happen?
Just let this thing die.
It's
They're
crazy,
letting it die because
like,
Ubisoft isn't
awful.
listening during earnings calls, and because gamers have lost complete faith in the company as a whole. Toto followed this up with another post today, noting that stocks had fallen another 9% in Paris. So these stories do coincide, and I didn't actually know that until I read this paragraph right here. But we're still going to move on to the letter. So great job, Cirkin Toto. Great job on that reporting there. And we're going to take a look at this letter that I have pulled up for you all to see. So 9/9/2024. So this was as of today, maybe even just a few hours ago, to the board of directors and members of committees of Ubisoft Entertainment, and they did indeed CC Mr. Yves Guillemot, CEO and chairman of Ubisoft Entertainment, and they CC'd Tencent Holdings. So everyone is going to be reading this letter. The CEO gets to read the letter in which they ask for him to be fired. So he's probably...
I mean, it makes sense, right? I mean, like, if you... The thing is, the stock lost like 80 or 90% of its value. How do you lose 80 or 90% of your value and then try to stick around? Bro, you fucked up. Get out of here. What are you thinking? Like, that's crazy. Probably saw it coming.
Panicking. He's like, how dare they write such nonsense and then send it to me? The nerve, the gall, the audacity. Dear members of the board, dear fellow shareholders, as a significant minority shareholder in Ubisoft Entertainment via AJ Investments and our partners, we are writing to express our deep dissatisfaction with the current performance and strategic direction of the company. The recent quarterly results, which included the postponement of key games like Rainbow Six Siege and The Division into the 2025 lineup, and a lowered revenue outlook for the Q2 2024, have heightened our concerns about the management's ability to deliver value to shareholders over the long term. Share price of Ubisoft had decreased by more than 40% over the last year, which is horrible for a video game.
That's 40% after another 40%, right? It's not like this 40% was the first one. Woke investors, it's not really about woke investors. I actually think that it's something that is systematic with the company. I think that they're probably making too many games and they're spread too thin because they're releasing so many games, and so many of their games have quality issues or some sort of quality control problem. I think that's what's really going on. It's woke employees. Well, I think that there's definitely, like, that definitely does matter. It does, because it's going to give people a bad impression of the game if they look at a comment section and the comment section is saying the game looks bad. That's a huge, huge issue. Like, basically, it seems like the public has rejected both Star Wars Outlaws and Star Wars the Assassin's Creed Shadows. Like, a lot of people in the public have pretty much rejected this. Like, very, very, very negative. But Ubisoft even, it's gotten so bad that Ubisoft even put out a statement about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Not only it's too woke in gameplay mechanics due to your innovation, they just repeat the same formulas. Yeah.
Company as big as Ubisoft, compared to the rise of its competitors and indexes and there have been a lot of companies as of recently have taken to the skies with their revenue on their video games that they have made. Black Myth Wukong, hello. They say this letter consists of the following points. Take Ubisoft private or allow it to sell it to strategic investors. Ubisoft valuation, why we believe Ubisoft is a great undervalued company and should be worth between 40 to 45 euros.
It's not worth 40 to 45 euros. There's no way. They've done so much damage to their reputation. And also, I think that if you have a company that makes bad games consistently, the odds are the reason for that is because the people that work at the company are bad at their job. And I don't think that it's an issue like, yeah, you're right that management always takes accountability for issues. But if you want me to be honest, I think that a lot of the people that are probably working there are incompetent and they don't know how to make a good game. It's obvious that they don't. So yeah, I mean, I see it's not a one-guy problem. Yeah.
Share our concerns about the future of the company and our proposals. So they say
I think, like, look at Blizzard, for example, right? Like, Blizzard has such a massive disadvantage now because of how much controversy and how many negative like games they brought out and how much negative press they've had. So now they're fighting an uphill battle with every single release that they do. And I don't think people understand or take into account, because it's very hard to quantify, the amount of value that consumer satisfaction and people liking you has. You can't just cut it? Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, like, basically every single game, your end consumer audience has an overall negative opinion of your games. And you can see this with any Ubisoft trailer. People are very, very negative with these games. And guess what? It causes them to lose a lot of fucking money. Because the strongest form of advertising is word of mouth. And the next best thing to word of mouth is seeing what other consumers are saying. And so you look at the reviews, the games aren't on Steam. You're just never seeing anything good about Ubisoft. That's what it really comes down to. At the end of the day, you never read anything good about Ubisoft anymore.
Private process by PE firms or Guillemot family plus Tencent at fair price. Allow sale process as we are in discussion with investors to fight against Guillemot family with so-called proxy fight at extraordinary shareholder meeting. Change of the current management. So they say start hiring process of new CEO who will optimize the cost and studio structure for more agile and competitive company as Ubisoft should be. I want to say that number 3 is probably the most brutal request in this entire list, because
that's also the most accurate and probably the most effective one. There's a reason why. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, word of mouth is king. It is. No, 100% this is the case. Fire Bobby, the crew. No, what I'm saying is, like, I think that Elon firing 80% of Twitter's staff and then the website maintaining basically its functionality, I think that really showed a lot of other people in tech, we don't need all of these people. We don't need to do this. It's wild. Yeah, exactly. And so I think that a lot of companies, like, I don't know if you guys work at a company like this or have worked at a company like this, but I feel like things in the same way, it's like gravity, right? Like, something that's really big just tends to, like, bring in more things that are really big. And I think that what's happened with Ubisoft is that they've just continued to, like, grow and grow and grow. And at this point, there's too much redundancy. There's probably a bunch of people that are on the staff that have jobs that don't really add a lot of value to the product. Large companies move slow. Yeah.
CEO that he should be removed and sending it to him, that's just so insulting, but kind of hilarious. But it also says to the rest of the company that they think the CEO is not optimizing the cost and studio structure. They're saying that he's doing nothing with the company, that he's not doing anything to improve it, and that he needs to be gone. Now, this is the guy that said that Star Wars Outlaws was going to be an incredibly successful video game, and that their marketing campaign for it was going to be astronomically and beautifully executed. But it appears that after all was said and done, it was nothing.
Man, that's crazy. Why would you say that? I mean, it's just... Is there issues for weeks? Yeah, exactly. Like, wow. Nice Millennium Awards, off by a decade and a half. Yeah.
But we will use the French
Okay.
We're going to take this to the next level. AJ Investments
Jesus.
is trying to start battle of the shareholders, if you will, so that they wield enough power to sell Ubisoft as a company. So they're going to try and force sell the company in an attempt to put Ubisoft.
I don't think they're going to do that, but I think that the leadership does need to be replaced. Yeah, they're probably not going to force a sale or have the company go private, but I think leadership will get replaced no matter what at this point. And I think that if Assassin's Creed is like badly received and people don't like it, I could easily see what we know as Ubisoft now to change dramatically. I don't know exactly what that means, whether that means like the company would get split up, bought by somebody else. Like I don't think it's going to crash. Like they're gonna just like delete the company. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But one more failure like this, and I can't really see them recovering from it. Yeah, I can't. I mean, there's just been too many failures in a row, and yeah. They're done? Yeah, I mean, how do you do that? Last chance? Well, like, whenever we, like, make jokes about it's Blizzard's last chance, it's really funny, right? But the truth is that if you look at Blizzard's stock, so value research, let me see if I can find it, share price, if it has any information about this. So this is whenever, obviously, the company was sold. But if you look at yeah, if you look at the actual revenue of Blizzard, it went up massively. So Blizzard is actually an example of like, Blizzard has gotten a lot of negative press, but that negative press never actually amounted to a negative impact on the business. Bobby brought in the money. There's a reason why this dude could have been on Epstein Island. He could have been, you know, threatening to have his assistant killed with like a recorded conversation, and none of that mattered. And the reason why is because of this graphic. Ubisoft does not have that. That's the difference between something like Blizzard and Ubisoft. Is Blizzard has a very bad reputation and they're making money despite that. Ubisoft has a very bad reputation and they're not.
In those places. So Ubisoft valuation, we believe that Ubisoft is a great company developing, distributing, and selling video games. Ubisoft has long-standing history with providing great experience for players all around the world. Their IPs such as Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Tom Clancy's Just Dance, True Rayman, and others are extraordinary and can attract millions of players over time. However, we believe that Ubisoft at current valuation is deeply undervalued and should be worth between 40 to 45 euros per share. But I think that this is the cream of
I bet that a lot of the people that made the games that made Ubisoft really successful, like Black Flag and like all the Assassin's Creed games, Prince of Persia, stuff like that from like the 2000s, those people probably don't work there anymore. Like a company isn't really anything, right? A company is people. And so if you change the people, it's fundamentally not the same company, even if it has the same name. So Ubisoft that used to be worth $45 to $50 per share, or whatever they're calling it, 40 to 50, 40 to 45, that company doesn't exist anymore.
This is the best part. Says that Ubisoft at current state is mismanaged and shareholders are hostile to the Leno family members and Tencent who take advantage of that. Many committees focus on easy investments with creating quarterly results and not focusing on long-term strategy to provide exceptional experience for the gamers. I think that this is incredibly ironic. Coming from a hedge fund company like AJ Investments, they're even saying that Ubisoft is prioritizing quarterly results over the satisfaction of gamers. So they're like, hey, you guys are supposed to be gamer pleasers. You guys aren't pleasing anybody. You're just thoughtfully spending money. It's just so funny that it's coming.
Well, the funny thing is that it's the opposite, right? It's like they're trying to squeeze it so hard that they're actually hurting it, right? Like now it's like they're trying so hard to make money that they're causing themselves to lose money.
People who are ahead, even they see that Ubisoft is doing something horribly wrong, and they're calling it out now. AJ Investments is no small company. They are pretty big. Now, they do have a minority share of the company, but it is significant as stated. So even though the majority shareholders probably have a ton more. These people still have enough of a claim to the company that they can say things like this and have an impact, and it really is having an impact.
Well, I mean, like, you've got to be fucking crazy if you think that anybody else who's an investor isn't thinking the same thing. Like, if you had a stock and it went down 80% or 90% in like 8 years, of course you would want to have a reason for that. Absolutely. Like, you really think that this isn't something the other guys aren't thinking? Of course they are. That's their fucking money.
It's concerning, but this goes far beyond just trying to remove a CEO or his family or trying to gain control of a company. These people go as far as accusing this family of amassing control to sabotage future partnerships and to enrich themselves with shares that they buy at a really low value in order to maintain the control that they've had for so long. And this information is coming out really fast. It says right here that we believe that Galeno family and Tencent are discounting potential value of Ubisoft in order to buy more shares at a lower valuation and eventually take full control of the company at a heavily discounted valuation. We value the great work that has been done by the Galemos over the decade in Ubisoft, but now it's time to move on and restart the business with new shareholder approach and new management CEO. They do go on. By talking about February 1st, 2023, when the Galemo entities acquired more than 4 million shares of Ubisoft with the money from Tencent. In our view, recent delays of certain titles there are creating uncertainty amongst investors and beneficial for Galemo and Tencent.
It doesn't matter. Like, it's always better to delay a game. Like, I know a lot of people think that's bad, but it's totally okay if you delay a game. This legit happened with Long John Silver's recently? Yeah, of course.
To acquire more shares at even discounted valuation, as Ubisoft is currently trading close to €15 per share, lowest point since 2015, giving Ubisoft valuation less than €2 billion. So these guys up at Tencent, this family Galemo, who are apparently branched into other things as well, these four brothers, are trying to attain full control of this company so that they don't have to do anything with it, so that they don't have to make any beneficial partnerships with any other companies that want to invest in it. Funny enough, one of those companies that they mentioned is actually Blackstone, which I'll point to in just a second. But they assume that because of Tencent and Activision Blizzard, that they may use this as a tactic to get minority shareholders under the stress. The Galemo family and Tencent owns more than 25% of shares, 29.6%.
I mean, even if they don't, I don't really see this being I don't really see this being a solvable issue with like what their products are. Like, it doesn't matter who really owns the company. At the end of the day, like, if you're delivering a product and people don't like the product, that's it. That's the issue, right? It doesn't matter if you're delaying it. Like, like Suicide Squad got delayed, and it was still garbage. There are other games like Black Myth Wukong got delayed, I think, twice. Elden Ring got delayed twice, but it was still really good. It still sold very well. None of that matters if the games are good. That is the bottom line, because that's what the company is about. I think that a lot of times people get involved in like the process of the company or things like that.
Feeling all right?
But what really matters more than anything is the actual value that the company is giving the end user. And that's why Steam is so popular. It's because Steam focuses entirely on the user experience and what the user is getting out of it. Good products sell.
Voting rights of Ubisoft, that's the bottom line. Shows below. So what AJ Investments plans to do is to take the remaining 70% of the shareholders of the company, the minority shareholders, based on their talks with other shareholders, they believe that they will have enough voting power to challenge the Galemos and take the company from them completely so that they can transform it. Which brings us to an incredibly interesting portion of the argument that they're presenting here. They say that because of the management and governance that Ubisoft has been failing horribly. The control exercise in September 2022 by Tencent and the Galemo family has effectively blocked potential acquisitions and partnerships that could have been beneficial for the company and its shareholders. And that's because the Galemos have been buying the dip repeatedly. More recently in 2022, private equity firms such as
I don't even know why they would try to do that. Like, it doesn't even make sense considering the direction of the company.
I took care of the rest.
Yeah,
They
it's
are
silly.
in Blackstone
Just make good games,
expressed
exactly,
interest
yeah.
in acquiring Ubisoft, but we're unable to proceed
Go
due
on
to the
the to-do
existing
list.
agreements that prevent any single entity from gaining control without the Galemo and Tencent's consent. So that's it. They purposely sabotage beneficial partnerships with other companies that want to invest, and then once the share price starts tanking because people start losing faith in the company, the Galemo family and
Self-sabotage is
Tencent
real?
will buy at
Yeah.
a very low price and then amass even more control over the company. So eventually they will have full control, and AJ Investments picked up on this. They caught them in the act of trying to do this, and now they're trying to stop them. This is crazy, dude. But look at what's been happening to the company over the last 10 years. Look at what's been happening to Star Wars Outlaws and Assassin's Creed Shadows. Look what has been happening as these people keep pushing DEI, for example. Everything that they do, everything that the Galemos do with this company, they fail. And before people start saying, well,
I don't think that, again, I think DEI is a component to it, but I don't think that it's even the main component. I think that if the game played well, that you can always find examples of games that have the same type of DEI, but it's a certain type of attitude and writing and design that comes together to make like the perfect combination of a very unfun and unenjoyable game.
at least they said no to Blackstone. That doesn't mean that these people are any better. Look what they've
it's
done
like
to the
it's
company,
entirely
what kind of
like all
games
the way
they
down.
release. They may not be partnered with Blackstone, but they're certainly pushing what Blackstone wants 100%. This pattern of blocking potential acquisitions has prevented much needed restructuring and revitalization that will benefit all the stakeholders of Ubisoft, and AJ Investments has recognized this.
Malicious
Now they want to
management,
take
yeah.
the company from the Galemos. They
be.
must think that things are really bad at Ubisoft. We must not be seeing the entire big picture with this company and how in bad straits they truly are. And we are going to find out over the next few days how bad this really is, because I'm sure that people are going to start picking.
You're not going to find out until Assassin's Creed Shadows comes out. As I said, if that game comes out and it's not successful, I could easily see it like cutting the stock in half again. Because it's just at that point, you just have so many fuck-ups in a row. I don't see how you can recover from that.
This open letter, which actually has a ton of information that spans from them describing the drops in stock prices over the last few years, amongst other things, operational efficiency, etc., etc. And this letter goes all the way down. It says that we encourage all the minority shareholders to contact us and support our initiative, and then they provide the email. Sincerely, Jiraj Krupa, AJ Investments, and partners. So these guys are going to town on Ubisoft. They're ready to take over, and they've provided sufficient evidence to try and convince these shareholders to take their side and to buy this company. Ubisoft is in the middle of a war between itself and the people who invest in it, and the people in charge
Looking a
have
little
been
put out
gatekeeping
there
this company
input.
from having any kind of
Interest
beneficial
you in a
partnerships. And
pre-BD?
to be honest with you, that really does make a lot of
Sure.
sense when you think
Here
about
I
how
go.
poorly their stock prices
Hold
have
it.
been
House
doing
rules
lately, and
first.
they just
There
keep
will be
going
severe
down. Even
penalties
after
for
Star
any
Wars
unauthorized
Outlaws was
recording.
released, this company's
No
prices
drugs,
have been going
no
down. It has
groping.
not made a recovery.
Someone catch
and
your
there's a
eye?
good chance
Well,
that
of course it's not going to make a recovery.
Find 'em
Why
in the
would it
catalog,
make a recovery?
ask for a BD, and get yourself a box.
Like, there's no reason
I
for
really look
people
that
to like
green.
randomly get
Like I
faith
don't
in the
know.
company again. It doesn't even make sense.
Doors
of
open.
course not.
Have
yeah, there's
fun,
no reason for
input.
that.
Welcome
Ubisoft
to
must go
Lizzie's.
down. So many good franchises. Yeah, yeah.
the company might not actually recover at all. And if you really take a look at everything that the Galemos have done for this company, they did good for a minute. I don't know how long they've been a part of this. I assume since almost the beginning, but really, the company's price has gone down to below the point that it was at before September 2014. Ubisoft is in trouble, and AJ Investments is like, hey guys, you see how badly this company is doing? Let's take over. Let's change this company from the inside out. Now, if they take over and then they give it to Blackstone, I really don't think that anything is going to change. But regardless of which side you take in this investment war, one thing is for certain, Ubisoft is in dire straits. They are doing terribly, and gamers
It's
are...
crazy to me because, like, I see people that I think they like the. I think, like,
I'm looking for Evelyn Parker.
it's crazy how
You know she's here.
ideology can cause people
Who's
to
asking?
completely neglect reality. And I'm seeing people all
Name's
the
V.
time talking about how
He and I
Ubisoft is
have
actually
a,
doing really well.
date.
And like how
Well, V,
like
it's a pleasure.
it's actually
I'm
not
Mateo.
bad that you can release
Uh-huh.
multiple games that are
So,
massive failures in a
Evelyn?
row. But
Love's big.
no,
We're gonna have to look
this
around.
is absolutely
Can't do it for
not like
all
Ubisoft
right,
isn't
Mateo.
Ubisoft anymore. Exactly, yeah. Like you can't keep doing that, man. Who? There's a lot of people on Twitter that are talking about like, oh, Star Wars Outlaws actually did really well, etc. And even because like they can't lie on their investor reports, right? It's like legally against the law. And so they had to say that they expected lower sales. And I think that was the beginning of the end. Twitter never have been the majority. No, they're not.
Sense on? Only tequila.
Seeing it happen in real time. And that is all I've got for you guys in this video today. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you haven't had the chance to like it and share it with your friends, that would be awesome. And hey, if you're feeling ultra spicy, consider subscribing to my channel so that you're always up to date on what kind of thing I've got going on. I look forward to seeing you all in the next one. Later. Meow meow.
Okay. Well,
we'll be in the lounge,
just
Mateo.
I mean, I'll talk about this for a few minutes.
We're not here.
I think a lot of this video definitely seemed like just a straight up investor dispute, right? Like it wasn't just entirely about the games and the products. It was about who's owning the company and how control in the company is being exercised. And I think that's also like, that's very different than, let's say, I don't know, like the game being bad for like one specific reason. I think it's something that's like, let me turn this down a little bit so I can talk. Yeah.
Dex had a load to say
Raymond will save Ubisoft. I don't think so. And interesting to get a view of this angle. Well, like you have to assume, like if you are a big company and you lose 80% of your fucking stock value, you bet your fucking ass that somebody's head has to roll. I would be shocked if at the end of like after these releases, you don't see a massive change up or big layoffs or something like that. Because you just can't have failure after failure like
got me all excited.
A minus 80% is crazy. And again, like you can compare this. People always compare with like Activision Blizzard. Very bad comparison. Activision Blizzard was maximizing profits. Bobby brought home the bacon, and this Guillermo guy or whoever the fuck it is, Assassin's Creed will succeed.
But me,
here's what I think.
On this one.
I think Assassin's Creed will be it will be a successful game, but it will be the lowest version of success that you could potentially have.
Rolled through that neighborhood.
And I think that also, and this is another comparison I want to show you guys.
Chef must have made a deal with the devil.
So where's this chip hiding exactly?
This is something that's actually observable with Path of Exile.
On the top floor.
And so if you look at, for example, a lot of the leagues, like Lake of Calandra, was a league that was received a lot worse than Sanctum. Sanctum was perceived much better than Lake of Calandra. But Lake of Calandra had a higher player base. And then if you look at the Crucible League, which was perceived very well, and again, look at the high peak there. Well, that's because of how well the Sanctum League did. And so what happens is that a lot of game purchases have a ripple effect that if the last purchase was good, then the next purchase will be better. And if the last purchase was bad, the next purchase will be worse. And I think that's what's happening is you're seeing that delayed effect go into Assassin's Creed, and you're seeing that with Star Wars Outlaws even. So because consumers, they buy one game, they don't like it, well then they don't buy the next one. You're severely underestimating the popularity of Assassin's Creed. Every Assassin's Creed game has had their stocks go up. Here's the problem, though, is that let's say the Assassin's Creed game has their stocks go up, but the proportion is lower than any other game.
Provided we're done
like any other previous Assassin's Creed game. Wouldn't that really make you worry? I'll link you guys the video.
What's next?
Give it a like. I think that he brought up some good points here.
Now comes the best part.
Even though the majority of this does seem to be a shareholder.
Got something for you.
A shareholder dispute. And also Assassin's Creed is going to be following like a massive budget.
Facts, not thrills.
So like, yeah, they've got to make the most money off of Assassin's Creed because that's where they're spending the most money.
Jacking off too.
So I think that's what's going to happen with a lot of cases.
It can be a very useful
tool. This reminds me so much of Bungie and their future move with Destiny 2.
Analyzing details,
we just saw the stops. Yeah, exactly.
Even boosted.
And so if Assassin's Creed is going to be successful, the truth is like Valhalla was a very successful game. And if you look at the response from Assassin's Creed Valhalla, if you go back and you look at, for example, like the launch video or the announcement video for that game, you'll see almost everybody who was positive about that game. People liked Assassin's Creed Valhalla. People were excited for it. I don't see that same excitement with Assassin's Creed Shadows. I just don't. And I think that's a huge fucking problem. So yeah, Assassin's Creed will probably do much better than Star Wars Outlaws, but it's like if you know that your biggest hitter still isn't a home run, even if it gets you to first or second base, I'd want to change
you recorded
teams.
this?
And that's the point that I'm
BD
making.
rec implant.
Is that
Why,
even
you
if
object?
Assassin's Creed does do well, it doing
Supposed to be
well does
Yorinobu's
not
pad
mean
on
that
the
they're out
tape.
of the woods.
Means you were inside.
Going full throttle, either ideology
each
or
other?
milking money.
How else could I get all
Valhalla
this
was
info?
liked after the fact. It had bad
I
reception
know
before
him
launch. I don't
pretty
know.
well, actually.
I remember seeing a
have
lot of people
an
be very
arrangement.
positive about Assassin's
Strictly
Creed
business.
Valhalla.
Suits us both, I think.
I was excited until they game pushed over.
Let's see this brain
And I don't think you guys understand this.
Judy
Like-
will help. She's a mox too.
I don't
Besides,
think that
we
you
go back
understand how bad this really is.
V, this is important.
I'm
Judy's
gonna
always
remind
been
you.
there for me. Always helped out. I trust her. But she's a mox, not the latest member of your crew. Try not to forget. So, you'll be a good
And this is the best showcase, by the way.
and keep that tongue on a
This is as good as it gets.
Relax. Believe it or not, I'm no stranger to tact. In biz or life.
Sound?
Who do you think you are? For the people? I am justice.
Uh-huh.
What are you doing?
Sekiro from Wish? Wulong was better than this. Like, look at, for example, watch this at 0.25. Wait a second. Sorry.
Hey,
Watch the way the
there
animations
you
work.
are. This is V. He's here for that BD role. And V, this is Judy. Best brain dance editor I know.
Enough already.
Barely even hit him.
Hey, Judy.
Get ready. It's jank as fuck? Yeah.
Compiled your BDF.
What do you think? Will it do?
What was that?
Still pretty raw, but yeah, ought to do.
Mm-hmm. V needs to get deep inside. That's most important.
So, let's calibrate. Tune it to him.
You see that animation?
Believe
Garbage.
me, I've dealt with worse. Should see the jig
And
jig
here's
street
the
porn
worst
we
part,
gotta contend with.
is that this is the best part of the video.
So we drop V inside. Let him look.
Watch
let him
this.
Rummage around, right?
How about it, V? Raw brain dance. Ever taken a dip before?
Look, I'm no BD virgin, but the raw stuff?
Relax.
This
I'll-
is the biggest
Sit
joke
down.
I've ever
Sit-
seen. Get ready. Get ready. Here we go.
The extremely powerful executive Sean Diddy Combs has had an ominous presence in the music industry for the past 30 years. From his suspicious involvement in the demise of Tupac and Biggie, his secretive ritualistic parties in the backrooms, as well as numerous accidental confessions, has made the public pre-decide that he is guilty of all accusations against him. Not only have multiple women filed formal lawsuits alleging him of violent sexual assault and humiliation, but now the federal government raided his home as they investigate his involvement in a global sex trafficking operation. Technically, at the moment, he is not being charged of any crime, but any day now, Diddy could feel the wrath of the American justice system. Today, we are going to unearth the secrets he never wanted the world to know, with the goal of determining one thing: did he do it or not? It's first very important to understand Diddy's potential involvement in the murders of Tupac and Biggie, because if you believe those allegations to be true, everything that happens afterwards makes total sense. In the mid-90s, Diddy, also known as Sean Puffy Combs, was in the middle of the infamous East Coast vs. West Coast hip-hop rivalry. It all began with East Coast rapper and Bad Boy Records signee, the Notorious B.I.G., versus his enemy, West Coast rapper and Death Row Records signee, Tupac Shakur, and it ended with both of them being assassinated via drive-by shootings. Biggie's murder remains unsolved to this day, but in 2023 we learned that Keefe D was the shot caller for the group of individuals individuals that killed Tupac. Although we do not know the specific details as to why these two rap legends were killed, through all the theories, key information, and first-hand recollections from friends and witnesses of both murders indicate that Sean Combs had involvement in both murders. Biggie and Tupac were friendly and actually respected each other at first. Tupac had begun rapping in 1991 and within 2 years already had earned a platinum album. Biggie was a crack dealer who recorded freestyles for fun, until someone sent his tapes to Puffy, who signed him to Bad Boy Records for $25,000. Puffy was also able to use his status in the music industry to connect Big and Pac. Pac became a mentor to Biggie. He once even asked him to be his manager.
Your cortisol and adrenaline spikes, but the soft activated your hormone blockers. Nothing happened.
I just do shows and let the nigga come on before I did keep your head up and get around. Because nobody knew the nigga in New York. And I used to tell a nigga, yo, if you want to make your money, you gotta rap for the do not rap for the niggas. I told the nigga, don't rap for the niggas. Rap for the bitches. The bitches will buy your records and the niggas want with the bitches. So all of a sudden he changed from being listen to all your bullshit.
Probably took a booster just before.
From that to Big Pac.
Pac believes that Biggie used him as a blueprint, changed his whole style, persona, and music to be more aligned with Tupac. Many people speculated that Diddy also had a slight obsession with Tupac. He started dripping himself in Versace after Tupac did it first. He also got romantically involved in women after Tupac had ran through them first, like Sarah Chapman, who ran around with Tupac in the 90s and is now the mother of one of Diddy's children. Pac's claims aged like fine wine when recently the internet figured out that Biggie's most successful hit, Juicy, was actually stolen by a Mississippi-based artist called Notorious B.I., who released a song called Big Daddy a year before Juicy that sounds exactly the same. Is it a coincidence that Notorious B.I. and Notorious B.I.G. are very similar, and this song is called Big Daddy, and Biggie started going by Big Papa? But many people believe this was the mastermind of Diddy, as he was a music industry expert who knew how to scout talent and assess a hit song before anyone else heard it. They believe Puffy instructed his artist to steal from Notorious B.I., and Biggie trusted his boss and mentor. Pac and Big's rivalry began as a music-based competition, who had more music sales, who had the better fashion, media representation, and cultural influence. But due to gangster rap creeping into the mainstream and the two being surrounded by legitimate gangsters, tensions escalated to life-threatening conflict. In November 1994, Tupac was on his way to record some music at Quad Studios in New York City. Coincidentally, Biggie was there recording with Junior Mafia, which was a group of 4 friends that Big knew since their childhood. Puffy was there too, since Big was his artist, and anything that Big writes or records is technically owned by the Bad Boy label. Allegedly, a man by the name of Jimmy Henchman, who is now serving life in prison, was planning a robbery on Tupac since Pac owed him some money. Many speculate that Jimmy told Puffy what was about to happen, but Puffy did not try to stop it. When Pac was outside the studio, he looked up and realized rapper Lil Cease, who is best friends with Biggie, was yelling at him from above. He was excited to see him because they were friends. He told him he was going to go downstairs and meet him in the lobby. Pac got to the lobby downstairs when some men attempted to rob him at gunpoint, which quickly led to conflict and Pac being shot 5 times.
In the middle of that trial, Shakur was gunned down, shot 5 times in what he claimed was a murder attempt, and police called a robbery.
As the police did their investigation, you can see Diddy looking around scanning the area with his head down. Keep in mind that after Tupac was shot, he got in the elevator and went upstairs where dozens of Bad Boy affiliates were located. Pac was interviewed by Vibe magazine detailing the night he was shot and the energy of the people around him while he was bleeding out. Because Andre Harrell was there, Puffy was there, Biggie, nobody approached me. I noticed that nobody would look at me. Andre Harrell wouldn't look at me. I had been going to dinner with him the last few days. Puffy was standing back too. I knew Puffy. He knew how much stuff I had done for Biggie before he came out. Based on Tupac's words here, fans in the media believe that he was hinting that Biggie and Puffy might be behind the attack, which bothered Big and Puff since publicly at this point they were still friends.
Tupac article had me pissed off, you know what I'm saying? And the rumors are spreading on some tip like you set him up, you know what I'm saying? And that's crazy. It's ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But I also understand that if you was to get shot 5 times, mind is just completely spinning, you know what I'm saying? You're real confused about your situation. So it'll cause you to say things that you really don't mean.
To make things worse, a few months later, Pac was found guilty of sexual assault and would end up serving 9 months in prison. This gave him tons of time to think and reevaluate his life. To add insult to injury, Biggie released his iconic cutthroat track called Hushacha, which felt like an obvious diss towards Tupac. But technically, it was recorded before Pac got shot, but it was marketed and released months after the incident. Regardless, the media developed the narrative that Big and Puffy set up the shooting and now released a diss record bragging about their hit. And Puff's full intentions were to stir up drama, as can be confirmed by the former president of Bad Boy Records.
Biggie might not have thought that when he wrote the lyrics that was going to be used for that, but the way it was marketed by the company and released in the succession of things that were going on that we were dealing with, on all the levels that we were dealing, that record did what it was supposed to do. And that's a perfect example of how my former business partner works and thinks.
Pac was sitting in jail already thinking that they set him up, and the release of this song was all the proof he needed. But this wasn't the only shooting that Puffy was involved in. It's also important to know that Tupac signed to Death Row Records while in prison after the label owner Suge Knight promised to use his money to get Pac released. As they were in the process of getting Pac out, Suge Knight and his best friend Jake Robles, aka Big Jake, were at the Platinum nightclub in Atlanta. Suge confronted Puffy at the club and was choking him. Puffy's bodyguard, Anthony Wolf Jones, steps in to defend him, and then things got out of hand. Next thing you know, shots are being fired and Suge's friend Big Jake was shot and killed. Whether or not Wolf shot Jake has never been confirmed, but Suge was holding Puffy responsible for the attack, which was enough to now ignite a feud between the two executives. Quick sidebar, recently fans have noticed that Puffy's firstborn biological son Justin Combs looks a lot like Wolf. How does your son look more like your best friend than you? Anyways, in October 1995, Tupac got out of prison and he wanted war.
I have no fear. I have only ambition, and I want mine, and I will do anything to protect and feed my family. Yeah. And these niggas represent a threat.
Pac got out and immediately started taunting and scheming on Bad Boy Records as much as possible. In the days after his release from prison, he jumped into the studio to record his next album, All Eyes on Me, and he talked about the anticipated tracks.
Two of America's Most Wanted with me and Snoop. That's gonna be a humdinger, right? Shorty wanna be a thug. That's gonna be a big one. Actually, and wonder why they call you bitch with Faith. That's gonna be a big one.
He mentions Faith, aka Faith Evans, who was married to Biggie for over a year at this point. Imagine your wife jumps in the studio with your biggest enemy 1 week after he gets out of jail. Pac was also seen with Faith Evans at Whitney Houston's album release party. The rumor is that Biggie cheated on Faith and that she was trying to get back at him by cheating with Pac. Pac also allegedly started messing around with Mary J. Blige, who was a close friend and business partner with Puffy. Then Death Row Records held a Christmas party in 1995 where a close friend of Puffy, Mark Anthony Bell, was mercilessly beaten and forced to drink urine after refusing to give Suge Puffy's mother's address. Tupac and Death Row did not let off the gas. At the 1996 Soul Train Awards, Biggie won the award for Song of the Year, and Tupac won Best Rap Album of the Year. After Big got his award, he took some pictures backstage and then exited the venue because he had to go to the airport to catch a flight. And that's when Pac and Suge pulled up in a Hummer, taunting them.
While we was waiting for the car to pull up, Suge and Tupac pulled up in the Hummer, and Tupac was really loud, yelling West Side, cursing, yelling a bunch of stuff, and Suge came from the other side and was like trying to actually walk up to us, and he just wanted to talk to Big, like want to talk. But of course, everybody got in front. It was a little yelling and arguing for a minute, but police and everybody got in front, kind of stopped everything.
Despite Biggie's gangster lyrics, he was really a chill dude who didn't want to beef with Pac. Remember, he looked up to him. He always thought they were friends, but as we are speculating, he seemed to be a pawn in a much bigger operation.
He knows you sent somebody to shoot him that first time. Is that true or false?
Why? No, it's false. Why would I do that?
Alarm firmware.
Do you think he was just hyping a record, or do you have no idea?
Something about lots of seeds falling to this suit. Let me generate keys. I can forge their 6.
Tupac was a man on fire. A man who he believes was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't commit, was constantly being slandered by the media, and now feels was being disrespected by his biggest enemies, on top of being surrounded by real gangsters. He released a music video alongside Snoop Dogg called Two of America's Most Wanted, which featured a skit mocking Biggie and Puff.
Pop, please don't kill me. It was Buff's idea. No, man, I'm just a rapper, man. Please don't take me out the game.
Interesting that Tupac himself instructed the Biggie actor in the 90s to say it was Puff's idea, as if he knew the truth. Then Pac released one of the most abrasive and iconic diss tracks of all time, Hit 'Em Up. He starts off the song claiming he had sex with Biggie's wife and then directly calls Biggie, Puffy, and Junior Mafia all bitches, along with various other threats. The pressure was on Bad Boy. Pac was not going to stop, and Puffy couldn't take the heat. Biggie's bodyguard, Gene Deal, recalls when Puff reached his tipping point.
He said, I'm a businessman. I'm about making money, but something gotta change. I don't give a f if Pac gotta die, Big gotta die, or Suge Knight go to jail. Something's gotta change.
Gene was taken back. He wondered if Puff realized that he just said he didn't care if his own artist died. At the same time, he still wanted to play gangster games. As we all know, these gangster games only lead to two outcomes: death or jail, and Tupac would meet his fate on September 13th, 1996. Pac and the Death Row Squad were attending the Bruce Seldon vs. Mike Tyson boxing match in Las Vegas. Hyped up from the testosterone and the energy of the fight, Pac wanted some action. A Death Row associate pointed out Orlando Anderson to Pac, who was a Southside Crip gang member, a rival to the Pyru Blood set that was affiliated with Death Row Records. Pac went up to Orlando and punched him in the face. Then Death Row associates put a beating on the man. Later that night, Suge and Tupac were driving down East Flamingo Road to Club 662, when suddenly a white Cadillac pulled up beside them at a red light and opened fire on Tupac. He was hit 4 times, with the fatal shot piercing his lung. Just last year, Las Vegas police arrested a man called Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, who was a shot caller for the group of individuals that committed this crime, and he orchestrated the plan that was carried out. Ironically, Keefe D. has been confessing his involvement publicly on the internet for years. In 2008, he confessed that his nephew, Orlando Anderson, the man that Tupac punched earlier that night, was the one who actually pulled the trigger.
Keefe D. has now identified his own nephew as the murderer of Tupac Shakur.
Bolstering Keefe D's claim was an informant in 1997 who told investigators that Puffy had hired the Southside Crips to kill both Suge and Tupac, and that the Crip who was jumped at the MGM was in the group that had done the hit. This was exactly the same story that Keefe D told us a decade later.
Keefe also stated that Puffy offered them $1 million to kill Suge and Tupac.
Yeah, you can come on downstairs and talk. He tells you seriously that I need to get rid of these guys. I'm looking at you in the eyes. It's like scary. You tell him we'll do it for $1 million, and he's like, okay, I'll do it for $1 million. He agrees, shake on it.
Got any candy left? Stuff was pretty
Who brought it? Puffy did.
I got an idea. You know that guy?
No, it wasn't me. I'm sure.
Candy left?
When Diddy was asked about this confession, this was his response.
It was this documentary that claimed, which we know wasn't true.
Yeah, check this out. We don't talk about things that are nonsense. We don't even entertain nonsense, my brother. So we're not even going to even go there, with all due respect, but I appreciate you as a journalist. Thank you.
As you can imagine, Death Row was likely seeking retaliation for the murder of Tupac. Everyone at Bad Boy Records knew they were not safe, but they were especially not safe in Southern California. An LA kingpin called Gene Deal, Diddy's bodyguard, and warned him that there was a hit placed on Biggie in LA.
This somebody did 26 years in the federal jail as a kingpin, brother. He called me to save Biggs' them life. Tell them niggas not to go nowhere. It's a hit on. You get this information from a kingpin, brother. Chaz Williams.
Despite knowing all this information, in February of 1997, they headed out to Los Angeles to promote Biggie's new album, Life After Death. Puffy also wanted to record some of his album, No Way Out, in LA. Lil Cease, Biggie's best friend, claims that Big wanted to be in LA.
If he say go, we going. If he stay, we staying. Big wanted to stay. I always tell people that, yo, why everybody always go, why y'all was there so long, or why you didn't tell him to go home? He's the boss. We're here because of him. And if he feel like it's no threat and he wants to be here, it's our job to stand down with him.
Biggie was not taunting the West Coast. He genuinely loved being in LA. He received a lot of love from fans, promoters, radio DJs, despite being surrounded by his enemies. Instead of claiming to be the victor of his beef with Tupac, Biggie wanted to use his life to inspire change and squash the East Coast versus West Coast beef. The truth is, over the years, Puffy and Biggie had made so many enemies that they didn't really know who was after them. But they overstayed their welcome in the City of Angels, and Big's demise came on March 9th, 1997. After presenting an award at the 1997 Soul Train Awards, the Bad Boy crew attended the after party hosted by Vibe magazine at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Biggie left the party riding in the front passenger seat of a Chevrolet Suburban SUV with Puffy and other entourage members driving directly in front of them. As they stopped at the first red light, a dark-colored Chevrolet Impala pulled up alongside Biggie's SUV. An unknown assailant inside the Impala rolled down the window and fired multiple shots at Biggie's vehicle. Biggie was hit numerous times by gunfire, sustaining 4 gunshot wounds. One of the bullets struck him in the chest, causing severe internal injuries. He was immediately rushed to the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, but pronounced dead at the hospital that night. So what happened? Well, Puffy's business partner said that they had used up all their budget on security, so they couldn't hire extra security for this evening. Keefe D was also at this party and offered protection. Puff told him to stand down. Puff decided to ride in the separate car located in front of Biggie's. Then he gave his security guard, Gene Deal, very strange instructions rather than maximizing Big's protection.
I tried to ride on the side of the car. Puff said, "Yo, Gene, what you doing?" I said, "I'm riding on the side of the car. I have my gun out." So he says to me, "Gene, if you don't get in this car, you ain't gonna never work for Bad Boy ever again." I said, "Man, how the you gonna try to tell me how to do my job?" He said, "Gene, we don't need that look. We don't need that look. Get in the car." As I go to get in the car, this motherfucker reached down and let his seat all the way back. So now I gotta put my legs sideways. I'm like, "Yo, what the fuck is you doing?" He said, "You ready?" He said, "You ready?" I said, "Kenny, run the next 3 lights." Kenny said, "For what?" I said, "Motherfucker, run the next 3 lights, Kenny, or I'm gonna drive." Kenny just took off.
The first car ran the red lights, but the car behind them did not follow. They decided to stop at the red light. Lil Cease had his head hanging out the window trying to holler at some girls. Then out of nowhere, the shooting took place. According to an FBI agent, Phil Carson, who worked on the case for several years, Suge Knight hired Amir Muhammad to carry out the execution. However, the agent says that the original target was not Biggie. They were targeting Sean Puffy Combs. Gene also believes this story is the truth.
I believe it was meant for Puff. The people that tried to kill Puff that night, for whatever reason, because we had some beef with some Muslim cats in Soul Train too. For whatever reason, the people that's trying to kill Puff, Big became a casualty of Puff shit.
When they rushed Big to the hospital, Lil Cease, who literally looked the shooter right in his face, gave a description to Gene. This is what he said.
Little Cease at the hospital, he said a Muslim shot Big. And I said to Paul, with the blue suit, white shirt, blue bow tie, he said, "Gene, how you know?" I said, "That motherfucker walked up to Puff car first."
Lil Cease's description of the man matches up to what the FBI uncovered. All in all, to say that Puffy set up the murders of Pac and Biggie is not exactly accurate, but the origins of the beef and the escalation of the beef can most definitely be traced back to Puffy. Also, he definitely knew that danger was looming for Pac and Biggie and did not even come close to trying to prevent both of their deaths. Because at the end of the day, Puff was the one who benefited most from them dying. Think about it from the perspective of Puffy the businessman. Tupac dies, that makes Biggie the winner. Biggie looks like the ultimate gangster who warned his enemy with a diss track and then got him killed. That helps feed into the persona and sell more records. Plus, with Tupac dead, there is no more competition. Biggie's inspiration, his idol, the dude who he copied everything from, can no longer defend himself from the grave. Now, we know that Puff didn't exactly want Big to die, but he wasn't doing everything in his power to protect him. Additionally, Puff saw how much money Death Row was making after Tupac passed. Tupac Shakur sold 67,000 records in the week following his murder. 2 months after he died, they released The Don Killuminati, The 7-Day Theory, which Shakur recorded under the name Machiavelli. It debuted at #1 on the Billboard Hot 200 with first week sales of 664,000 and 250,000 the second week. To this day, Tupac has sold 75 million records, most of which came posthumously. Puffy owned all of Big's publishing. He allegedly purchased it from him for $200,000 years before he passed, which meant that everything he recorded or wrote for himself or other artists, Puff owned all of Biggie's percentage. Aside from the tens of millions of dollars in albums Big sold posthumously, he was also a prolific songwriter. He wrote all of Junior Mafia's album. He wrote for Lil' Kim. He wrote for Mace, Craig Mack. Also consider every single time he's been sampled over the years. Diddy has been making money off Biggie for more years than Biggie was alive. There were even suspicions that Biggie was aware of how much control Puffy had over his music and tried to sign over all his new music to his infant daughter, but passed away before he could get the business deals done. Biggie's mother, Valletta Wallace, Combs has repeatedly expressed her distrust of Diddy. The truth is, Christopher accepted the illusion of a friend and mentor for about $25,000. That's the amount Puffy lured my son with. That was a lot of money for Christopher back then as a 19-year-old. She continued by saying that she was glad her son does not have to witness that the very people that he thought he could ride and die with wouldn't think twice about using his mother. She added, I am glad that he is not here to see how they have used his image and his name. Diddy was filthy rich, extremely powerful, and evidently unpredictable. Imagine how easy it was to leverage his power in the music industry and his personal life. If you said no to him, in theory, he could blackball you, extort you, or maybe something more permanent. So consider that when we begin analyzing his history of suspicious behavior.
I got my MTV out. Savage! I'm a savage! Oh! I'm a savage! Whatever I want, I'm going to get! Whatever I want, I have to get!
Let's start with the mysterious Puffy's Flavor Camp, where Diddy would mentor teenage musicians like Usher and give them a taste of the music industry. R&B sensation Usher was nothing short of a child prodigy. By age 13, he had already been discovered in Atlanta by L.A. Reid, and they sent him to New York City to record his debut album with Diddy. In 1994, Usher was just 14 years old, and he moved into Diddy's house to be a part of his Flavor Camp.
I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Usher has been very reluctant to discuss what happened when he lived with Diddy. In a 2004 article with Rolling Stone, he said, Puff introduced me to a totally different set of shit. Sex, specifically. Sex is so hot in the industry, man. While he was in New York, he lived at Puffy's house in Scarsdale. There was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen. Some people look at this as nothing short of grooming a young boy. One time, Diddy himself detailed what living with Usher was like.
Back in the days when he was like 10 and I was a little bit older, his older brother, we used to fight over the Frosted Flakes. You know what I'm saying? Before pause was invented. You know what I'm saying? But it's my brother for real. We used to actually wrestle off of the Frosted Flakes because he used to always get them earlier than me. Now he's one of the richest stars in the world. And
What the f did Puff just say?
Even though Kevin Hart was just joking, he really was the only one that seemed to question what Diddy was talking about. But Usher looks kind of uncomfortable. And you'll notice a theme where Diddy is very comfortable touching other people, embracing them, calling them pet names, and almost always the other person's body language screams they do not like it.
Man, you doing it, man. You deserve it, Daddy. You putting in that work.
But Usher is not the only artist in the industry who may have been a victim of Puffy's Flavor Camp. Justin Bieber was also mentored by Diddy early on in his career. Bieber, just after his 15th birthday, spent 48 hours with Diddy. Diddy gifted him a Lamborghini Gallardo and let the world know why him and the teenager were hanging out.
Where we hanging out and what we doing, we can't really disclose, but it's definitely a 15-year-old's dream. I don't have legal guardianship of him, but for the next 48 hours, he's with me. So, and we gonna go full crazy.
Combs seems to be acting strange, but Justin seems alright. At the time, he was still a young star, glamorized by the industry. 1 year later, his demeanor towards Diddy was much different.
What's up, man? You good?
I'm good. How are you?
All right, young brother, everything's good? Selling out arenas and everything? Starting to act different, huh? You ain't been calling me and hanging out the way we used to hang out.
Well, you try to get in contact with me, through all my but you never got my number.
Now, Combs is renowned for hosting lavish and star-studded parties that have become legendary in the entertainment industry. Diddy parties are famous for attracting A-list celebrities across all industries. I had the craziest mix, Combs told Oprah. Some of my boys from Harlem, Leonardo DiCaprio after he just finished Titanic, I had socialites there and relatives from down south. Diddy parties are typically hosted at luxury venues or his own private residences. The media were quick to anoint him the modern-day Gatsby, a title he embraced with open arms. "Have I read The Great Gatsby?" he said to a reporter in 2001. "I am the Great Gatsby." However, many people forget that one of Diddy's first parties ever resulted in the deaths of 9 attendees. In 1991, 22-year-old Sean Combs was the promoter of the Heavy D's and Puff Daddy celebrity charity basketball game at City College's Nat Holman Gymnasium, the infamous Puffy Party where a stampede occurred taking the lives of 9 people. Some of the hottest rappers in the game were set to attend: Boyz II Men, Phife Dawg, Big Daddy Kane, Jodeci, even LL Cool J and Mike Tyson showed up. The crazy part is that fans could see all of their favorite stars for just $12. The first problem occurred with the tickets. Keep in mind, this is in '91, so people had to go to physical locations like the Apollo Theater box office to buy tickets. Tickets were also sold at local shops like Boss Emporium, and even free tickets were given out on the radio by Funkmaster Flex. The facility could only hold 2,730 people, but they had no idea how many tickets they sold, as no proper system was set in place to keep track. Despite this, Gene Deal recalls Puffy requesting to cut security presence in half.
This particular day, Puff calls me the day before we supposed to do the party and say, "Yo, Gene, I don't need y'all to do the security outside. I got the FOIs to do it." So I said, "Man, I just told 18 guys." He said, "I just need 8, I just need 8.
To clarify, the FOIs are Fruit of Islam members. One witness to the event said, "You cannot have an event like this in Harlem without those Muslims," said Oscar Davis, 32, of the Bronx. "Forget the police, they can't do nothing. The people in Harlem respect the Muslims." It was blatantly obvious that more people were outside than could actually fit in the gym. Despite the overcrowding, tickets were still being sold at the door, said Mario Salvaggi, a city police patrol chief. Fans entered through 2 side exits and funneled down the stairs, through the doors into the gymnasium. But once LL Cool J and Mike Tyson showed up, all hell broke loose. Mobs of people started swarming from outside to rush inside, pushing people forward towards the glass doors. The glass doors eventually were shut and needed to be pulled towards the crowd to be opened. Guards tried to instruct people to fall back, but they wouldn't listen. The pressure became so great that the glass doors shattered and people fell through them. Outsiders began stampeding and stomping over bodies to get inside the facility, but the problem just got worse as they needed to go down the stairs into the gym. The doors at the bottom of the stairs also needed to be pulled open towards the crowd, not pushed into the gym. So hundreds of people were squeezed up against these doors in this tiny stairwell with no way to escape. Also notice that these doors don't have any windows. So inside of the gym, people were having a great time. From the outside, you can hear them partying, playing music, and rappers shouting over the microphone. They didn't even know that just on the other side of those doors were people fighting for their lives. Eventually, they got the doors open. As much as 6 people were stacked on top of each other and began spilling onto the gym floor, finally relieving the pressure. People began trying to perform CPR on the ground. Someone announced over the microphone that 3 people died right there. This caused chaos, and the people inside the gym began trying to leave, stampeding back through the exact same stairwell where people were trapped in the first place. Police identified 5 men and 3 women dead at the scene, and 29 people were injured. A 9th victim died in the hospital days later. All of them died from asphyxiation. 8 families of the deceased settled wrongful death lawsuits against Mr. Combs in early 1998. Mr. Combs ended up paying around $600,000 of a total $3 million or so. Now, clearly, this wasn't all Diddy's fault. Legally, the courts claimed the city 50% responsible and the promoters 50% responsible. Regardless, death and dark energy seemed to lure around Diddy since his earliest days. From there, he kind of stopped throwing parties for the public and started to keep them private. However, over the years, disturbing rumors have spread regarding what happens during Diddy's parties, ranging from group sex rituals to casting couches where newcomers would secure their future in various industries. The biggest rumor is that aspiring male talent would need to pleasure other powerful men to advance their careers, and apparently it's an open secret in the music industry, which is why Shannon Sharp erupted in laughter when Cat Williams said,
Because P. Diddy be wanting to party. And you gotta tell him no. You got to tell him no. I did. I did.
Now, Diddy has 6 biological children with 3 different women. He has had multiple high-profile relationships with the likes of Jennifer Lopez, Naomi Campbell, and Cassie. But you will notice that most of the party stories that circulate involve him being surrounded by men. Josh Ostrovsky, who goes by The Fat Jewish on social media, detailed his strange experience at a Diddy party.
I'm on ecstasy and I'm trying to find the bathroom, and I can't find the bathroom, and I get lost. So I open the door, and in that room, there are a bunch of men laying about, and you know, kind of like very like kind of leaning on each other, like if you were spooning but facing each other and like leaning up on your elbow and talking.
Like it would almost be the prelude to an orgy.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh my god. Oh my god. It was so prelude to an orgy. And who is lounging in my direct eye line? Puff Daddy and Felix the House Cat, famed house music producer, are basically spooning each other, and they're drinking a glass of Hennessy, and they're like sharing, they're like passing it back and forth,
and everyone's talking,
and everyone's just like talking, and then as soon as I see them, I'm like,
all men though. There's not one woman in this room.
All men, and they're all 100%.
Shortly after Josh and Diddy locked eyes, he was kicked out. Josh, who is a gay man, immediately felt like he was in a room full of other gay men, but there was no real accusation nor damning evidence here. It could have just been a group of guys chilling. So let's take a listen to rapper Exhibit recounting his experience partying with Diddy.
Florida, we got invited to a Puffy party, a New Year's Eve party. He invited us to the house because we wanted to go to the club. Puffy calls me outside. He's like, hey, man, that girl you know about. He's like,
they wanted a drink named after me.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, what you mean that's the devil? So we get into the truck. He said, let's go to this club. You know, we sitting there vibing to the music, and then she point over the corner. It's two dudes kissing. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, the this? And then she pointed another direction. It's another dude over there, like, butt-ass naked dancing. You know what I'm saying? We take off, man.
Based on X's story, it seems like Diddy brought him to a gay club. Or maybe coincidentally, Exhibit just looked at the only two gay couples in a regular club. 50 Cent also recalls one of the first times he met Diddy.
We gotta kick it. This is tough. He telling me we gotta kick it and shit. He's like, yo, why don't we like go shopping or some shit? I mean, like, I pay for it. I was like, fuck this nigga just done. It's a fruit pie.
Now, there is no doubt that homophobia has been prevalent in hip-hop forever. However, some people are just simply not gay, and Diddy's actions make them feel uncomfortable. Like rappers Fabulous and Jadakiss, who were pressed by Diddy on a podcast that got really awkward really quickly. He began by repeatedly calling the host Nori Daddy.
Damn, Holmes. I like when you like this, Daddy. Daddy, I like when you scrambling and scraping. I like that.
Then he proceeded to ask Fabulous why he didn't want to party with him.
See where
Think you could take me?
Look back on where I became.
Did you miss me though? For real, because I'm saying it seems like a thing.
I miss
this
birthday
birthday party,
man.
Man, but I'm talking about for your birthday. Huh? Why won't you party with me for your birthday, man?
We partied for my birthday before. You came to my party.
No, but me and you ain't never really party, you know what I'm saying?
Jadakiss kept his head looking straight down for almost the entire interview, and you could tell Fabulous was very uneasy about Diddy's presence. When Diddy was confronted about it, this was his response.
Let's see this bad boy.
That was you. Scrambling. You sound like when you do it like that, Daddy. When you scrambling and scraping for shit.
Back at the scaffold.
Few Reapers less in the city.
Nah. I mean,
you don't go back and look at that stuff and laugh.
Should be fucking thanking us.
It could be funny. I don't really be on it like that.
It seems like he genuinely has no idea why people thought what he said was weird.
He says things, he doesn't even know what he's saying is like
Mr. Wells is right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he said something fabulous and he goes, yo, no.
But if it's all right with y'all,
but me and you, we ain't part. Like, we need to part.
For Mr. V.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about? That's the kind of stuff that when people say that to me, I get a little uncomfortable.
But even with all the jokes, rumors, and secrets, nobody ever formally spoke out against Diddy and accused him of assault or abuse until 2019, when his ex-girlfriend Gina Huynh spoke publicly about what it's like to be in a relationship with him. Keep in mind that Gina was a side girlfriend for Diddy. The public didn't know about her because his public relationship was with Cassie Ventura, who he had been on and off dating for a decade.
So she just want to see what's good, or was there something else?
We were in his closet and he like pushed me and I fell to the ground. He like stood over me. He avoided my face, but he like started punching me like on the side of my head, and I was just like covering my face. He like stomped on my stomach, like took the wind out of my breath. I couldn't breathe. Pleading to him like, can you stop? And he like stopped for a little bit. He like grabbed my hair from the back and like was like punching the back of my head.
She also claims that she was pregnant with his child in 2014.
You mind telling me what happened?
Elaborate. I want to hear it.
You're gonna get an abortion, right?
A Delamain will drop your ass at the front door of Kentucky Plaza.
$50,000
right
to
in
get rid
thanks
of
to
it,
your
but
false
I turned it
identity.
down because I just
Hotel,
loved him.
Gina did not take the money, but she also did not have the child. 4 years later, she got pregnant again. Gina goes on to detail multiple other instances of emotional and physical abuse, but she never filed any formal charges. It wasn't all the way until November of 2023 that someone finally filed a formal lawsuit against Diddy. After that, the floodgates were opened, and Sean Combs' dark past crept out of the shadows. In the lawsuit, Cassie Ventura, his longtime girlfriend, accused Mr. Combs of repeated physical abuse over about a decade. As you can imagine, this lawsuit and these allegations went extremely viral. After all these years of shady rumors, weird behavior, and dark secrets, the entire world was prepared for Diddy's decline. Ventura and Combs met in 2005 when she was 19 and he was 37. He heard a song she was marketing called Me and You. He then contacted Ryan Leslie, who wrote Cassie's first single, and paired Bad Boy Records with Leslie's Next Selection imprint for the release of Cassie's debut album. In August 2006, Cassie released her self-titled album under Bad Boy Records. The pair formed a close relationship through working together for several months as Cassie became the face of Diddy's fashion label, Sean John. In 2007, Diddy separated from his longtime partner, Kim Porter, and started dating Cassie. Cassie alleged that Combs controlled nearly every aspect of her life, from her career to having access to her personal medical records. She claims he was frequently violent, physically abusing her multiple times a year, and that he often plied her with copious amounts of drugs, which made videos like this one seem awfully suspicious, where Cassie seems to be hiding from Diddy.
Come on, Dex.
Hey, hold on, Holmes.
What?
We got the
What you
flag.
gotta say now?
And we're going in a hotel
gotta
full
say
of
now?
soccer men to swipe.
You ain't got shit to say.
And who's providing transport? A top-tier net
You put your
runner
girl on
and
the
a
snap.
lead-proof plane?
Baby.
You sure you want to go
Baby.
down?
Shit getting weird. Come on, baby. It's hot outside. You fucking wrapped up in that blanket. Let's go jog on the beach.
Jack's right,
The court papers assert that others who worked with Mr. Combs helped him control Ms. Ventura, like suppressing her music if she did not obey his orders, or by helping to conceal his behavior. But it wasn't just mentally controlling, he also often got physically violent with her. In one incident in Los Angeles in 2009, the suit says that Mr. Combs became enraged when he saw Ms. Ventura talking to another talent agent, then pushed her into a car and kicked her repeatedly in the face, making her bleed. The suit also details Diddy's request for Cassie to engage in his newest sexual fantasy called voyeurism. Combs forced Ventura to have sex with male sex workers in different cities, encounters she claimed he watched, pleasured himself to, and recorded. This is the allegation that likely opened up a federal investigation into him sex trafficking people. According to the suit, Mr. Combs called these encounters freak-offs, which involved costumes, like masquerade masks and lingerie. The lawsuit continues to detail some of the most horrific, embarrassing, and torturous behavior Diddy allegedly committed. Combs' lawyer, Benjamin Braffman, responded to the lawsuit on behalf of him. Mr. Combs vehemently denies these offensive and outrageous allegations. For the past 6 months, Mr. Combs has been subjected to Ms. Ventura's persistent demand of $30 million, under the threat of writing a damaging book about their relationship. Despite them denying everything, the lawsuit was settled just 24 hours after it was made public. We don't know how much, but due to the severity of the charges, the public assumed that Diddy coughed up tens of millions of dollars to keep her quiet. And while Combs likely believed that he escaped Cassie's lawsuit unscathed, a woman named Liza Gardner filed a lawsuit on November 23rd. Gardner claimed that she and a friend met Combs and singer-songwriter Aaron Hall at an MCA Records event in either 1990 or 1992. They returned to Hall's apartment for an after-party where she was offered more drinks and was coerced into having sex with Combs, who assaulted both her and her friend. In another complaint filed the same day, Joy Dickerson Neal alleged that in 1991, she reluctantly went on a date with Combs, who intentionally drugged and sexually assaulted her after their dinner. Diddy denied the allegations through a spokesperson who claimed that the women's claims were fabricated and accused them of exploiting the Adult Survivors Act. The New York's Adult Survivors Act temporarily eliminated the civil statute of limitations for survivors of sexual assault, which gave them the right to file a lawsuit against the perpetrator regardless of how long ago it occurred. Then another woman came out. Jane Doe alleged that Combs, his longtime lieutenant Harv Pierre, Pierre, and a third unidentified assailant gang-raped her when she was 17 at Combs' Manhattan recording studio in 2003. Pierre, who previously served as president of Combs Bad Boy Entertainment, had also been sued by a former assistant, who alleges he used his position of authority as plaintiff's boss to groom, exploit, and sexually assault her several times between 2016 and 2017. The lawsuit further claimed that men trafficked Doe across state lines from Detroit to New York City on a private jet, supplied the teenager with drugs and alcohol until she couldn't consent, and then violently assaulted her. The complaint also included several photos that Doe alleges were taken at the studio that night, including one where she is sitting on Combs' lap. Enough is enough, Diddy said on Instagram. For the last couple of weeks, I've sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation and my legacy. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. But it wasn't just women accusing him. In February of 2024, Combs' former producer and videographer, Rodney Lil Rod Jones, filed a federal lawsuit against Combs, alleging Combs sexually harassed, drugged, and threatened him. According to the lawsuit, Rodney Lil Rod Jones lived with Combs between September 2022 and November 2023, during which he worked on Diddy's most recent album, the Love Album, Off the Grid. As Combs' videographer, Jones allegedly secured hours of footage and audio recordings of Combs engaging in illegal activity. The activity the suit alleges includes acquiring drugs, soliciting sex workers, providing laced drinks to minors, and sexual assault. Jones alleges that he was the victim of constant unsolicited and unauthorized groping and touching of his anus by Mr. Combs. Mr. Jones was forced by Mr. Combs to work in Mr. Combs' bathroom as Mr. Combs walked around naked and showered in a clear glass enclosure. In the lawsuit, Jones also alleges that Young Miami, who is Diddy's most recent girlfriend, was among those who were paid a monthly fee by Diddy to work as his sex workers. Jones believed Diddy was grooming him with the goal of passing him off to others. While on a yacht in January of 2023, Jones alleges he was introduced to Oscar-winning actor Cuba Gooding Jr., who proceeded to grope and fondle him until being forcibly pushed away. Jones claimed that Diddy, who had dominion and control over Gooding Jr., failed to step in. Also in Jones's lawsuit, an unnamed rapper is mentioned as having been on Diddy's yacht, where they were allegedly seen consorting with underage girls and sex workers. This rapper is described as a Philadelphia rapper who dated Nicki Minaj. Rapper Meek Mill is from Philadelphia and dated Nicki Minaj from 2014 to 2016. That same unnamed rapper, also an unnamed R&B singer, and producer Stevie J allegedly engaged in sexual intercourse with Diddy. This allegation has people looking at that clip of Meek Mill in the pool with Diddy calling him daddy more suspiciously. Also, 50 Cent made some jokes about Diddy and Stevie J on Instagram, to which Stevie J responded with not denying the allegations, but challenging 50 Cent to a boxing match.
However it go, I want you to fade, nigga.
Plaza. Please come
All that. Since it's entertainment,
you got it,
beat the shit out of you on TV or something. Sir. Don't duck that. I'm calling you out. What you want to do, Curtis?
But the most shocking allegation made in the lawsuit was Mr. Jones discovered that Mr. Combs has hidden cameras in every room of his homes, and that Diddy was secretly recording artists and powerful executives like Lucian Grange, who was mentioned in the lawsuit, who may or may not have participated in the freak-offs. If this turns out to be true, we might see some of the most powerful people in the entertainment industry get exposed, and 50 Cent wants to be a part of the expose. He said on Instagram, shaking my head, "This is gonna be so good. What you want to bet I'm gonna get these tapes? I'll pay top dollar for them. You been over there? I don't go to Puffy's parties." However, it seems as though Sean Combs' reign of terror may be over. On March 25th, 2024, Homeland Security agents and other law enforcement officers raided Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and Miami due to a possible ongoing sex trafficking investigation. Homeland Security expert Hal Kempfer added some insight that the evidence they're looking for includes laptops, flash drives, and anything that would connect Combs with the allegations. As of right now, we don't know what they found, and technically the feds never formally announced what they were looking for or why they were there. But it's safe to assume, based on the allegations, conveniently, Diddy was not even in the United States during the time of the raid. According to TMZ, Combs' private jet was spotted on the ground in Antigua, in the Caribbean, shortly after news of the raids broke. Many people believe he is fleeing the country, and today it seems like Diddy is spiraling. He just posted on social media trying to see who in the industry is on his side.
Hey, yo, right now, though, for real, yo, I need to know who with me. You know? Like, just straight up, like I don't have the time. If you with me, let it be known. If you don't with me, be quiet.
And just in case you wanted some more twisted allegations and insane conspiracy theories, take a look at the founders of Uptown Records, the people who gave Diddy his very first job in the music industry. Andre Harrell, dead at age 59, Heavy D, dead at age 44, Kim Porter, dead at age 47, and Al B. Sure, who was just in a coma for 2 months and almost lost his life. Al B. Sure is also the father of Diddy's oldest adopted son. Al B. had a child with Kim Porter before she left him, married Diddy, and had children with him. Al B. has recently been trying to reach out to his oldest son, hoping that he will leave Diddy and come back home, and when he got out of his coma, he strongly insinuated that Diddy was the reason behind it.
We're going to be producing the Al B. Sure life story. So hold on to your britches, and you'll
What do
really
you think,
understand how
Harry?
I ended up in a coma. You're really
Quaint, cozy.
Now, why would Diddy want the people who got him into the music industry in the first place to all be dead? I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. But it seems like almost everyone around Sean Combs for his whole career either dies, disappears from relevance, or speaks out against his devilish ways. Yet nothing bad ever seems to happen to him. He just seems to get more successful and rich. Is it a coincidence? Maybe. But for now, we will just have to see how this all plays out. Based on everything you have learned in this video, you probably think he is guilty. But as of right now, he is innocent until proven Diddy.
I'm actually really curious to see what's going to happen with this.
The P. Diddy scandal has finally uncovered just how dark and twisted those in control of our culture really are. From some of the most disturbing sex parties ever.
And the thing is that, like,
and when I say heads are gonna roll,
I kind of don't want to say this, but like, if Leonardo DiCaprio and Howard Stern got named, I'd be like, yeah. Yeah.
This affects them too. It'll
Recorded sleepovers with a teenage Justin Bieber, funding and controlling your favorite celebrities, hosting his own Love Island where he took people off the radar.
I got an island called Love Island. When you going off the grid with me, you gotta go to sleep for a week, man.
Free.
That's a like he just said it?
Parties, whilst also allegedly taking down some of the most iconic musicians in the industry.
Oh my God.
The P. Diddy situation is truly disturbing, and now that he's in custody, only time will tell what's going to happen next. But the fact that this has been going on secretly behind the closed doors of the Hollywood elite for decades shows just how well covered this truly was. But now, finally, the truth is unraveling in front of our very eyes. P. Diddy.
I will say that, like, people that heard about this or knew about this and didn't speak out against it, I don't necessarily think that they're bad people. Not categorically, all of them. Because I don't think that, like, because if you speak out against this and bro, well, let me explain why, okay? Like, before people get mad about this, let me explain why. It's because I understand, and I would probably do it, I would speak out against it despite this. However, a lot of people believe it's not their place to do it because they weren't victims, and it's up to the victims to do it, and they don't want to throw the victim into a situation where they're not prepared and mentally or emotionally able to deal with the situation. So I think that's whack. Yeah, like, so, okay, I view it as a trolley problem, basically. And so because of that, I would still make it public, where it's like, yes, this could damage these people, but it also could prevent it from happening to an unknown amount of people in the future. So I have the same conclusion, but I don't think that their perspective is entirely invalid.
Needs hardly any introduction. Before he was infamous for his crimes, he was at the top of society. Yeah. He rubbed shoulders with
especially if people don't really know about it, right? You hear about this, maybe this happened. Are you really going to go out and spread some crazy rumor like this that you don't really know?
Powerful celebrities in the world. Ooh. He knew everyone in the music industry, from Jay-Z, Beyonce, Snoop Dogg,
that's
to
crazy. That's a lot of
people.
Even
Justin Bieber. However, this recent case has exposed how truly twisted the celebrity elites truly are. The investigation began initially in November 2023 by Sean's ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Cassie Ventura. She accused him of misconduct and filed a lawsuit. Cassandra and P. Diddy then settled out of court the very next day, and one of his lawyers, Ben Braffman, was clear that it was by no means an admission of wrongdoing. P. Diddy then released a statement wishing Cassandra the best in order to further support the idea that he was innocent.
Right,
Guilty or not, it certainly left a stain on his name. Cassandra then released a statement thanking her friends and family for their support, and the settlement amount was left undisclosed. It seemed to be a case closed but undusted job, or at least that.
Well, I think the reason is, like, I mean, let's just think about this logically. Why would he do this if, like, he's paying this massive amount of money? It's no way a mission of wrongdoing. Like, I mean, come on.
Yours truly. That one's mine.
I hope she got paid. Yeah, she probably got paid a ton of money.
P. Diddy know that this would be the beginning of the end for him, and would start the ball rolling with many accusations and investigations that would lead to his demise. A further 2 lawsuits were then filed, with accusations of abuse and sexual assault by 2 other women. Joy Dickerson claimed that in 1991, when she was just a 19-year-old college student, P. Diddy had drugged her after a date and sexually assaulted her in her home. Lizzie Gardner was the next victim to come forward, claiming she and a friend were drugged and put in separate rooms where at first, P. Diddy and then Aaron Hall would do awful sexual acts against them. She then found out her friend had the exact same treatment as well, as it seems like they both took turns doing these awful crimes against these girls. Lizzie was just 16 at the time, and then a few days later, P. Diddy pitched up at her house and assaulted her again, this time choking her until she passed out. As he
Gonna have to switch to manual control. V, take the control shard from Jackie. Gonna link your Kiroshi's to surveillance so you can guide the bot.
Was irritated at the thought that Lizzie might mention this to his girlfriend. Then in December 2023, another person came forward.
Wait, what?
That Lizzie might
until she almost passed out because he was worried she might divulge what happened. So he
mentioned this to his girlfriend. Then in December 2023, another person came forward with more accusations aimed at him. She claimed that she had been gang raped and sex trafficked. She said that Harvey Pierre, who was the president of Combs Bad Boy Records, flew her from Detroit to New York in 2023. However, while with them, a third man joined P. Diddy and Pierre and her.
I think that, like, this is a really interesting component that whenever I'm looking at stories like this, it, like, I kind of have, like, a degree of the more details line up between stories and the more minute the details, the more I believe the stories. And, like, the whole gang raping and drugging people, I know it's common, but this seems to be a common factor among all of them. And, like, for me, whenever I read situations like this, if I see a bunch of, like, these, like, really kind of abstract commonalities, it probably happened.
Note inside said,
yeah, the dots
even
connect.
complained that he couldn't finish until he had his nipples pinched. The suit included a photograph on the night in question of her sitting on Sheen's lap. She was only 17 then, and was now the 4th woman to come forward in just a matter of weeks. This time, P. Diddy did not settle out of court. In fact, he issued a statement on his Instagram saying, quote, "Enough is enough. For the last couple of weeks, I have sat silently and watched people try to assassinate my character, destroy my reputation, and my legacy.
Shouldn't have put that out there.
Sickening allegations have been made against me by individuals looking for a quick payday. Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of these awful things being alleged. I will fight for my name, my family, and for the truth. But there were several red flags hinted by friends of P. Diddy, particularly in Usher's interview with Howard Stern, where subtle suggestions indicate that these new allegations were possibly founded as far back as 2016, back when the interview took place. As Usher described his experiences when he lived with
what did he say?
16.
Living with Diddy comes as questioning experience.
Back when the interview took place.
What did he say?
As Usher described his experiences when he lived with Sheen for a year, and said he was exposed to some very curious things, but at that age, he didn't understand it.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn some...
Camp?
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I mean, but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle. But I don't know if I could...
something's up with the tank.
Hey, Bug, it worked.
Indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
It's only now that it stands out because it further...
What the fuck? Jesus, like... He knew, but he's 13. I don't know, like...
This supports the allegations. friends. When Howard asked Usher if he would allow his own son to participate in the Puffy Flavor Camp, as P. Diddy would call it, Usher didn't hesitate to say no.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Well, he sent somebody else's. His name was Justin Bieber.
No. In a Rolling Stone interview with Usher in 2004, he elaborated on his experiences with living with P. Diddy.
Oh my God.
He said there was always girls around. You'd open a door and see somebody doing it, or several people in a room having an orgy. You never knew what was going to happen. With this in mind, it wasn't that surprising that by February 27th, 2024...
And they just brought a kid in there? I mean, this isn't like 17, right? This is 13.
Gotta be another way. Let me think.
The producer of P.Diddy's album, The Love Album, sued P. Diddy for $30 million for sexual assault. He claimed that he was also drugged and woke up in a bed with 2 male sex workers and Mr. P. Diddy himself. His lawsuit included P. Diddy's son, Justin, who he claimed would bring underage girls home and then drug them, while his dad secretly filmed these sexual acts. Although an adult...
Now toggle over to the other camp.
Dwellers inside.
Just as planned.
Still weird, the hotel's only got one runner.
Decent dwellers as good as a dozen rank and file.
Bro, this guy...
Flathead ought to be able to neutralize him.
Good thinking. Let me graft a demonoid onto your link. And you know you gotta
this
jack
is
the Flathead directly into
this is
his
insane.
chair, right?
Make it sound like I'm new at this.
Okay, send it.
It's
He's all yours.
fucking
You'll have to
insane.
get the Flathead in there first, though.
Like, no, I mean, I thought it was like, oh yeah, hooking up with some girls, and you know, this guy was like sleeping with a 16-year-old girl. Okay, you know, like, all right, this is like, it's just your typical situation, right? This has happened many times in Hollywood.
Send the Flathead over there, then toggle over to the second camp.
This is crazy. His kid's bringing it, like, and he's filmed.
Flathead into the chair, V. Jack in.
I feel like, I mean, this is some, like, I would say this is some Game of Thrones shit, but this is worse. This is insane. Like, oh my God.
A film actor called D'Angelo Knockout Marquise claimed that one of the photos used in the lawsuits was actually a still from one of his films. Although perhaps discredited, where there's smoke, there's fire. And P. Diddy was now desperately trying to put the fires out as more and more took to flame. P. Diddy actually admits that he did document everything in his life, so any sexual male acts could have easily been caught on tape. And the fear of that exposure will keep some from coming forward as well.
So he secretly recorded people to use as collateral to ensure the continued obedience.
Yeah, I'm here.
Wait, but then he admitted that he recorded people too?
Acts could have easily been caught on tape, and the fear of that exposure will keep some from coming forward as well.
Want my brain to burst into flames? Just sit down and enjoy your snazzy sweet.
Thanks, I will.
At this point,
you take it easy.
Like,
okay?
what didn't this guy do? This is insane.
In deal, P. Diddy's former bodyguard said in an interview that the freak-off included P. Diddy having sex with male escorts that his then-girlfriend was forced to find.
Looking at this lawsuit, she alleges that, you know, Diddy, he'll make her
I could care less about that. Some dude wants to fuck another dude. You gonna suck another dude's dick? Go ahead. I don't care. This part's like, who cares, right?
Online for BBC's for their freak-off sessions. And she say that, you know, in this lawsuit that, you know, Diddy, he enjoyed watching her get smashed by BBCs.
And she was searching for the big black, not only for herself, but for somebody else who we all know that was in the room with her.
What do you think?
They had to be...
Why'd he give it all up?
That's really, I'm gonna be real, like, I really
know.
could care less about this. Really, like, I really could care less about, like, this situation. Like, these are two adults, swingers that are into cucking, shit like that. It's a private sexual fetish between consenting adults. Weird? Sure. Problematic? No.
For both of them, they was in the room.
P. Diddy would make them wear masks to keep their identity from Casey.
She also alleges that, you know, while she was having sex with these male prostitutes, her, the male prostitutes, and Diddy, they all wore masquerade masks.
He didn't want her to know who they were.
Which is why on March...
It's the fucking Hunger Games? Like, what is this? Like, this is some fucking, like, Great Gatsby, Hunger Games, fucking, like, weird... The Eyes Watch... Is that one of the... I never saw that movie. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like...
March 25th, 2024, P. Diddy's homes in both LA and Miami were raided by the Department of Homeland Security Investigations in New York. The raid was part of the investigation of sex trafficking led by the Southern District of New York, perhaps prompted by the now 5 victims who had come forward, one of which was a male who also chose to remain anonymous. Because of this,
only
the
5 back
investigators
then.
seized guns and P. Diddy's phone on the day of the raid. It was reported that over 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricant were found on the property. This unusual find would be laughable if it
The thing is that after hearing about all this stuff, the only thing that I'm surprised about is that it was only 1,000 bottles. This is insane. Like,
one so incriminating to the horrific charges. It only supported flying rumors of sex parties that would go on for days with drugged up women and male escorts, all performing sexual acts in the quote freak off to satisfy P. Diddy's endless need for lust. In the Los Angeles home, P. Diddy's sons were also put in handcuffs during the raid. It was reported by their mother that the federal agents used excessive unnecessary force and that it was just racially motivated. But it couldn't be any further from the truth. Everyone allegedly involved was being taken down, and over the coming months the truth would unravel about how truly disturbing this Hollywood celebrity culture truly was. Now, P. Diddy's
this is insane. Like, and the fact that his kids are involved with it too. Classic race card. I mean, look, it's the mom. It's like there's a reason why you don't have people that are involved. Like, you don't have the parents of like the perpetrator or something make decisions. Like, the mom's in on it, and yet no, and that's another fucking thing, man. Is like, now, like, I would never think like the kids are like it's maybe she's in on it too. I mean, fuck, like, how could you not be in on it? It seems she's got to be an accomplice too. Yeah.
Is unknown to be insane, as you can probably tell by the 1,000 bottles of baby oil. At these parties, it was reported that the drugs offered were all designed so that party participants could go on for hours having sex.
Like
there was
meth?
a drink called the Tusi, which was dosed with a bunch of drugs. Jaguar Wright explained this in an interview, as she said that P. Diddy would put in Special K, also known as ketamine, to relax your muscles.
Now, if you don't know what ketamine is what they call on the street Special K. It's a veterinary drug. It's a horse tranquilizer.
This was then mixed with cocaine and Viagra to counteract the negative side effect of limp noodle, as Jaguar described it, creating the perfect mix to relax you while still keeping you completely energized for sex.
The cocaine keep you up all night, but unfortunately, it gives you limp noodle because of what the blood flow is. So you want stuck with a half-hard dick all night. So that's why you have the Viagra, to make sure that the dick involuntarily stays hard while you're numbing your fucking self with the coke.
Jamie Foxx even said that he'd been to one of these parties. And
that's... Oh my god, bro, like, that shit's sick. That's so weird, bro. That shit weirds me the fuck out. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, that's so weird. Like, how do you just do this? Just the beginning? Like, yeah. Like, that's just, it's sick, bro. Like, what the fuck?
And it's very likely that most people in the celebrity LA Hollywood culture would be partaking in this stuff, especially with the recent allegations coming forward in the last couple of weeks. And it's truly disturbing to think what was happening there. Recently, a video was shown by CNN of P. Diddy assaulting Casey, which further supported her claims. The video shows her trying to leave the hotel party, and P. Diddy had already given her a black eye by this point. In the video, P. Diddy's wearing nothing but a towel, and as he catches up to her, he violently pushes her down, then proceeds to kick her twice and tries to drag her down the hall.
Yeah,
the
I saw
footage
this.
shows further abuse when he throws a bunch of glass in her direction.
Wait,
it's
what?
Obviously, he's very intoxicated at the time, having just emerged from one of these awful parties. After this footage went public, P. Diddy posted an apology saying he was disgusted with himself when it happened, and that he's disgusted with himself now.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you gotta do that. I was f***ed up. I mean, I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
He claimed that he sought help and went to rehab after the incident.
I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, go into rehab. I had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry,
But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
The LA County District Attorney's Office also issued...
Man, he's gonna have to do a lot of apology videos. Yeah, they gotta have him in jail doing apology videos all day. This is gonna be a lot.
A statement saying
That's
that
bad.
while the video was hard to watch, they could not use it for further action as the footage and incident happened beyond the timeline where it'd be of legal use.
Oh,
However,
yeah.
they encouraged
Statute
others to
of
come
limitations.
forward. It was explained that P. Diddy paid the hotel $50,000 for the footage so that it would not be leaked to the public.
Oh my god.
The sad reality is that this is the only incident caught on surveillance and actually exposed to the public. However, Casey's lawsuit was riddled with far more horrific accusations.
That girl went through some tumultuous shit that she never thought that she would ever have to go through being in the music business.
She claimed that P. Diddy would go into fits of rage and that she was his main target of savage beatings.
Well, I mean, she had a black eye, right? And so, like, how does that happen?
Into the bedroom and shut the door, and all I could hear is screaming and yelling and whatever was going on in there, I don't know.
What the
all
fuck?
All I could think of was to grab Cassie's things and start packing it up and just getting her out to safety.
She claimed that he would drug her and force her to have sex with other men while he watched, filmed, and masturbated to it. This is
I just like... It's just like, I mean, is a cucklord? I don't care about the cuck part. It's about like drugging her and forcing her, right? The cuck part, like, I don't care about that. I don't give a fuck. Like, that's just, yeah, you want to go do that? Go ahead. Like, NTR did it? Yeah, plenty of people like NTR. Great, have fun. But fuck, he blew... Wait, what? Wait, often punched, beat, and kicked on her, resulting in bruises, burst lips, black eyes, and bleeding. Blew up a man's car after he learned that he was romantically... Wait, ran out of his apartment with a firearm in pursuit of a rival industry executive who he learned was nearby? Demanded that she carry his firearm in her purse just to make her uncomfortable and demonstrate how dangerous... And this is even the one that's highlighted? Yeah, dude, bro, this guy's playing Grand Theft Auto. What the fuck? This is insane. He blew up Kid Cudi's car? Oh my god. Special place reserved now for Diddy? Just yeah, like, this is like, you've got to... I'm trying to think, like, has there been anything that's been more deranged than this? Like, there's plenty of, like, serial killers that get into, like, weird stuff, but usually it's, like, one or two weird fixations. This guy, I feel like this guy just looked at, like, what can I do wrong? He looked at it like a checklist. This is insane. Like, Epstein, well, we don't know what happened with Epstein. We're not sure about that. Like a challenge, yeah, bro, like an achievement list. Holy fuck.
Has since been dubbed as a freak-off, and as we've mentioned, it's come up in many other accusations as well.
Yeah.
She also claimed to try to leave him in 2018, which ended up with her getting odd. Casey also claimed that for a brief time, she and Kid Cudi started a romantic relationship, but when P. Diddy found out about it, he threatened to set his car on fire and wanted to make sure that Kid Cudi was there when it happened. While it seemed like an idle threat, it did indeed happen. 2 weeks later, Kid Cudi's car was deliberately set alight. As for P. Diddy, this footage of the abuse could not have come at a worse time. He was already being investigated.
I know you, the silver lining type.
There's another dude.
When are you gonna wave off that dark cloud?
This guy is insane.
I'm telling you, it's downhill from here.
But probably Las Vegas, Hollywood, couch surfing in 50. Yeah, I mean, this is nuts. Professional deviant, yes.
were coming forward with further accusations, and even men like the Michigan inmate Derek Lee Smith sued P. Diddy for $100 million and won by default. It seemed that P. Diddy didn't even show up to defend himself for this one. In Derek's suit, he claimed that while at a party in Detroit in 1997, he was a victim of groping and sexual assault by P. Diddy. Once these accusations started coming forward, people started realizing that P. Diddy was just the tip of a giant iceberg of a huge Hollywood conspiracy. You see, Eminem, who's known to rap out his opinions, recently dropped a line in his Killshot diss track, mainly aimed at Machine Gun Kelly, that brought up the possibility of P. Diddy's involvement in Tupac's murder. The line that had fans reeling went, "Count was the day you put out hits, the day Diddy admits that he put the hits out that got Tupac killed," which was...
Some kind of dead zone's my guess. Have him back in a sec. And you do your damn job.
Looks like Yorinobu left us a parting gift.
This guy, bro, this guy's actually like, yeah, this is actually, he's playing Grand Theft Auto. Like, you want to know the only other person that I feel like is this reckless, this insane, and this dangerous? Hunter Biden. Like, P. Diddy and Hunter Biden have been playing Grand Theft Auto in real life.
Got no time for this.
It's nuts. Much worse than and yeah, this makes Hunter Biden look like a good guy, you know, normal guy. Just oh wow, oh yeah, wow, he does crack. Oh, that's so bad. Like, yeah, insane. Yeah, bro, this is insane.
Got something ejected. Come here, V.
Then followed by, "I'm just playing Diddy, you know I love you," and many share Eminem's suspicions, although there has been no real proof of it. It is possible that Eminem is not holding back as P. Diddy's record company Bad Boy Records is funding MGK, who was gunning for Eminem. But Eminem didn't stop there. In other songs like Antichrist, he brings up the video of P. Diddy and Casey and makes fun of possible reasons for P. Diddy to chase Casey. In another...
The Antichrist? I feel like... you know what? I mean, this is, yeah.
The song Fuel, he brings up the lawsuit and insinuates that P. Diddy tried to have Tupac's alleged murderer killed. In another song, Bad One, Eminem raps about P. Diddy possibly blowing up Kid Cudi's car. It hit such a nerve that P. Diddy demanded a public apology from Eminem. He believed that the rapper had gone way too far and was doing more damage to his reputation in light of the new developments. Well, he's not wrong, because Eminem's fan base outnumbers any other rapper, and they tend to be loyal and hang on to their every word. Especially when it comes to the disturbing behind the scenes in the music industry and Hollywood world, people trust that Eminem isn't just making this up. All these allegations seem to stem from...
I don't think he's bullshitting either.
Fuck him!
I don't. I don't think he's like making it up. Now, somebody could have lied to him. He might not have the right information. But man,
let me look to this, huh?
Relic intact?
Fuck.
Bioshard integrity.
A powerful icon in the industry. This speaks to the intimidation manipulations used to keep all those people quiet.
Let's go.
In 1999, certain testimonies indicate that P. Diddy got away with a shootout in a club. At the same time, P. Diddy and his then girlfriend.
Too late.
This guy is the only guy that you can be like, there's like one sentence, oh yeah, there's also a shooting in a club that he got away with. Like, and this is a 19-minute video, bro. Like, I remember when, you know, like there was some Michael Jackson stuff back in the day. And, you know, there was like a whole documentary about the Neverland thing. And then it was like, R. Kelly happened. And like, R. Kelly had like a whole Netflix season. Bro, this dude is the new whole Game of Thrones. Like, you need multiple seasons to go through all of this. Like, I thought R. Kelly was like, that's really bad. You got a bunch of episodes. Yeah, you got spin-offs. Yeah, you got Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, House of the Dragon. Yeah, like you gotta. You have a movie for this. What the fuck, man? Yeah, 50 Cent's got his work cut out for him. This is insane. MG was debunked years ago. Look, I love Michael Jackson. I also think that he was mostly innocent. I agree. But like at the end of the day, it's like he dead and it's literally dead and buried, right? And so what I'm saying though is like, but at the time, a lot of people, it was a contentious point, right? It was very contentious. This is like, this is nuts.
friend J-Lo went to the club and got into an altercation with Matthew Scar Allen. P. Diddy knocked a drink out of Matthew's hand, which sparked the violence, where P. Diddy threw money in his face as a sign of disrespect. As it got heated, both of them drew their guns and fired into the crowd. 3 victims survived to tell the tale, but one victim in particular stands out. Now, Tanya Rubin reports that she saw P. Diddy do the shooting while Sheen shot into the ceiling. She herself was shot in the face, and her testimony has not wavered since.
I watched them both fire their guns. I watched them, and that is exactly how I sit here today. Because some thug criminal with an attitude and an ego that was outside of control decided he was going to fire a gun in a crowded nightclub and shot me in my face.
She was so adamant about it that she offered to get bullet fragments removed from her skull to use as forensic evidence. However,
how's she still alive? I mean, if I had to guess, probably because it's right there. And that's probably why she parts her hair that way. Yeah. That's what I would assume.
About it that she offered to get bullet fragments removed from her skull to use as forensic evidence. However, P. Diddy was once again acquitted, with Shane taking the fall, being sentenced to 10 years in prison. Pulling the strings behind the scenes once again, and P. Diddy got away scot-free. This was even brought up in Rodney's suit, as P. Diddy would tell him that he even got away with shooting people and would display his guns to instill fear to keep Rodney silent and calm.
Well, and that's the thing, is that he was right. He did get away with it. What the fuck?
Pliant. The more we uncover about P. Diddy's life, the more these testimonies start to line up a very dark picture of what it takes to actually succeed in the celebrity culture, and how truly powerful people pulling the strings really are. P. Diddy just seems to be the tip of the iceberg. Just one guy who was so clumsy.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I will be shocked if anything beats this. I cannot imagine something that is more insane than this is. Just wait, and that's the thing. That's the thing, right? Epstein is close? No, Epstein is so undefined. We don't know a lot of the stuff that happened with Epstein. This is totally different. Man. Oh, shit. Waiting room for Jay-Z drop? I mean, like, this, like, dude, this is nuts, man. It's unreal. Like, I really, like, I honestly just, I cannot imagine something being worse than this, because this, to me, it's like, again, it feels like it's not even real. It's like Grand Theft Auto or something. You can't even believe it.
Made so many obvious mistakes and became so hated by the industry that he's finally now being exposed. But who knows how many other people are out there doing the exact same thing or even worse. But soon another 2 victims would come forward. This time the model Crystal McKinney, who claimed she met P. Diddy in 2003 at a fashion event. He found her attractive and offered to help her with her career. And once he had her at his studio, he gave her alcohol and offered her laced marijuana, stating, "You've never had weed like this before."
Yeah, I bet. No, I think so. Chappelle was right, even in his skits back then. What makes sweeter is Trump getting exposed? You think Trump is P. Diddy going to release the names of everybody involved? I feel like the names are already going to get released no matter what. Because there's so many other victims and so many people that have come forward, and it's already been made so public that even if you kill one person, it's like a hydra at this point. Like, you can't stop this because there's too many people that know about it. Yeah, and also keep in mind, a good dozen people immediately left their position and retired the moment that all this went public. Obama's going down? I don't think so.
At least she was very intoxicated. P. Diddy took her into a bathroom and forced her to perform some certain acts. Later on, she woke up in a cab, but luckily remembered what had happened, and she kept her clothes in plastic if they were ever needed for forensics. But because of his power, she only filed the lawsuit in May of 2024. April Lamprose is another victim of a much older but longer case. In 1994, she would meet P. Diddy, as he offered to mentor her in pursuing a fashion career. However, this would turn into a lawsuit of 4 incidents where P. Diddy would sexually assault her over the next 6 or 7 years. If she refused his advances, he would go berserk, which almost made her feel obliged. P. Diddy then taped it all without her knowledge and had shown these clips to others.
That's the reason why. He recorded fucking everything. Did you hear 50 Cent's gonna make a series about this? Yeah.
Bug, need you get us out of here now.
Give me a sec.
Yeah, this is insane.
Fuck.
Steve Harvey's wife filed for divorce the day this happened. That's interesting. Really interesting. Wow.
Should see a ladder.
I hope it's. I like Steve Harvey. I'll be real sad. I'll be real sad.
Like he had the power to ruin her career in an instant, so she always had to be careful. After a few years, she bumped into him again. This time he apologized for his behavior, but then fell straight back into his old tricks to lure her in. The indictment revealed that P. Diddy also threatened his victims,
100%.
including by threatening to expose the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of freak-offs if the women didn't comply with his demands. Kidnapping, also one of the charges, was briefly mentioned in a joking manner in a Conan interview with P. Diddy, where he says, quote, "I don't know if you guys have noticed this, a lot of ladies drink water at parties. They just, you know, so if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave. You need locks on the doors." And
What? Like, I hope this trial will be on TV. Honestly, I don't think it's going to be. I think this is like so dark and like so fucked up that there's like no shot they record this.
And while the crowd laughs at the time,
pilot
it's
this
only in
thing.
hindsight do we
What I
realize
was
how disturbing the statement truly was.
I don't know if you guys have noticed this, like a lot of ladies drink water at parties. They just, you know, so you have, if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave. Right. Gotta keep them in. Right. You need locks on the doors.
Which is why last week on
That's crazy. That's crazy funny. Well, the thing is that like a lot of people, like everybody
Out of here now.
That's bro.
September 16th, 2024, P. Diddy was finally arrested at a hotel in Manhattan on charges of sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, and transportation to engage in prostitution. His lawyers claimed he intended to hand himself in, but wasn't awarded the chance. He also claimed that he had handed over his passport, but it was cleverly worded as he had only handed it over to his lawyer, not the federal government.
Oh, right.
The reason this is important is because he was trying to show that he was not a flight risk, and therefore able to be released on bail. If P. Diddy did try to leave the country, it would turn into a nightmare of trying to get him back. However, his lawyer would have discouraged this. Still, it didn't matter because the judge denied his bail. His lawyer then appealed bail on the 18th of September, offering $50 million, which was again denied. And P. Diddy is now facing up to life in prison should he be convicted of a long list of charges.
That's it?
Forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. P. Diddy
I feel like that's not even the tip of the iceberg. That's like nothing. Yeah, that's it?
As a team tried to silence many witnesses with bribes. But while his life went from expensive cars and parties with some of the most rich and famous pop stars in mansions and hotels, he's now confined to 4 walls of a prison cell, waking people up to how disturbing this Hollywood industry truly is. It's also known that the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, where he's currently being detained, is known to be hell on earth. It's the same prison that housed R. Kelly, who faced very similar charges. And Mr. Jeffrey was also a former inmate before he was found dead.
If they're here for Saburo, they're a little late.
Uh-oh.
Just hope they didn't see us.
Yeah, he did say.
P. P. Diddy has been put on an S-watch. His lawyers have said that they will fight this with all they have, as they believe he's innocent. But it's believed that the defense attorneys have an airtight case and are very confident that their investigation findings will secure a guilty verdict. Regardless of the outcome, his career is completely over. He's been exposed for all the vile stuff, and now the truth just seems to keep on unraveling. All his business colleagues and former friends have done everything they can to distance themselves from him. It appears that Usher's deleted a bunch of posts to get some distance. And even though he claims he didn't do this, it does seem very suspicious, and nobody really believes him. But many celebrities are too scared to even speak out against P. Diddy, and some might fear the footage the feds have that could implicate them. It's been reported that Justin Bieber is so shocked about the crimes of P. Diddy that he's unwilling to talk about it. And after all the videos of him and Justin...
Man, bro, this shit is... This is so fucking dark, bro. Like, this is nuts. Yeah, like, this is... What the
Bieber
fuck?
surfaced back online, it's said that Justin's completely shut down, and you can only imagine some awful things have happened behind the scenes that we'll never truly know about. Justin, who once looked up to and admired the music mogul, now regrets collaborating with P. Diddy on his latest album, and there's probably way more to it than just that. More information has also been leaked about how P. Diddy funded Bad Boy Records by drugging his guests with food and drinks.
The thing is, though, like, what I bet probably happened, like, this is what I think probably happened, because this seems like what he did with his kids. Is that he probably groomed Justin into doing bad shit too, and has him on recording of doing that bad shit. But he probably groomed him into that even as he was a teenager. That's what I bet probably happened.
We'll be there in a couple.
Usher too, yeah. I mean, you're gonna do it to your own kids. You of course would do it to somebody else, or did something to him. No, I think both. I think, like, whether P. Diddy did something to him or not, like, that's a foregone, like, we know that happened. For sure that happened. Not for sure, but, like, 99% sure. Is that using the victims against other victims? Yeah, exactly. That way use it, like, turn the victims into your accomplices so they can never rat you out. And, like, what do you think the odds are that he does that? I'd say 100%. Absolutely. This dude's a psycho. Absolutely, he would do that. Do you think Diddy was taught this, or is he just a solo act? It's impossible to know. I don't know. P. Diddy was probably, yeah, maybe he was also a victim, like at the beginning. Yeah, exactly, right? I don't know.
Orgies to blackmail the elite's high-profile guests. Castle Black made the claim and said he had been waiting to come out with the truth about his knowledge of the matter.
Wait, his name is Castle Black?
This entire scandal should really highlight how disturbing the celebrity world really is, how there's power brokers pulling strings behind the scenes, controlling everyone in the industry, and if you don't fall in line, you can easily be blackmailed, which makes it so that it's almost impossible to know what's really going on. But with more clues like this, people are starting to wake up to how truly awful the celebrity industry truly is.
This is insane, bro. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, this shit is outrageous. Seems very plausible. Yeah, like, what the fuck? I'll link y'all the video. Like, this shit, like, yeah, give it a like. Like, this is fucking insane, man. Like, yeah. We need the names? No, they're gonna put out a lot of names. I guarantee you they're gonna put out names for this. This video's soft, and like, no, this video was from a bit ago. Yeah, and now it's getting even worse. It's like every day this shit gets worse. That creepy video of him with the teenager is worse. It'll give you shivers. Like, this dude is, like, I don't even know what to say. Let me see if I can show y'all. This is unreal.
Sean Diddy Combs is facing new sexual assault allegations. A lawyer representing 120 accusers says the artist committed numerous sexual acts on his clients dating back more than 20 years. ABC's Andrew Dimpert has the details.
This morning, Sean Diddy Combs faces a slew of new allegations. 120 new alleged victims coming.
Again.
Diddy Combs faces a slew of new allegations. 120 new alleged victims.
New. So this means additional. This is not 120 total victims. This is 120 new victims on top of the existing victims.
coming forward with plans to sue, claiming Combs sexually assaulted or abused them.
The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world.
The alleged assaults spanned 3 decades, with the alleged victims ranging from men and women who claim they were drugged during Combs' parties to a 9-year-old who claims Combs assaulted him in a music studio.
We talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred. It's shocking. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts.
The new accusation.
For context, Bill Cosby was only like 40 victims, right? It was like 40 something women that came forward about Bill Cosby. Yeah, right? It was something like that. It was like, yeah, it was only 40. So O.J. Simpson was 20, yes. So you think about with this guy, he is like half nearly the age of Bill Cosby, with at least more than 3 times more victims. Think about that. That's insane. Crazy.
Have not been
It's a
fully
demon.
vetted, and the lawyer expecting to file the lawsuits says victims will remain anonymous whenever legally possible.
Obviously.
But the claims come on the heels of a dozen other civil suits and a federal criminal case against Combs that alleges a decades-long pattern of physical and sexual violence.
Oh my
Conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way to this year, 2024. The only reason many of these people are coming forward because they see other victims come
Yeah, sure. That's always what happens.
It gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one.
Yeah.
Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and prostitution charges. In the wake of these new allegations, his attorney says Combs emphatically and categorically denies as false and defamatory any claim that he sexually abused anyone, including minors.
Oh my fucking God. This is insane. And the thing is, like, any reasonable person would realize, like, obviously, it's not like this is going to be it, right? It's not like, oh, well, now there's not going to be any more of these. Justin Bieber's 48 hours with Diddy. Yeah, this is fucking brutal. This is, bro, this is so fucking dark. This is a Justin Bieber video on his main channel from 14 years ago. Oh my God. I'll look at a little bit of this. I don't want to go through everything, obviously. It's a long one. Bro, the top comment, Judgment Day for the entertainment industry.
My name is Tony Busby. I'm a lawyer here in Houston. I'm licensed in Texas and in New York. And I'll introduce other members of our team as they speak. As many of you know, our law firm has been at the forefront of some of the most important litigation in the United States. We like the tough cases. We thrive in the complicated cases. We've handled over the last 25 years some very people and many entities involved.
Wait.
The conduct we will describe today occurred over more than 20 years. There are many people and many entities involved.
Okay.
And we're going to follow this evidence wherever it takes us. We will find the silent accomplices. We will
Nice shot.
If he does that, this is going to be like a Hollywood entertainment industry rapture. The fucking Purge. Yeah. It's so crazy. It's like one of those things where it's like the probability of this like it's there, right? It could happen. But it's so insane to imagine, because think about all the people that have made offhanded comments about this, and now people are retroactively looking back and being like, hey, wait, what the fuck, right? Like the Ain't No Party, like a Diddy party, Leonardo DiCaprio stuff, you know, Jay-Z, yeah, exactly, like Usher, Pink, right, deleting all their tweets, LeBron James, yep, there you go. The Hollywood Holocaust. I mean, I actually think that this could be probably the biggest scandal that could ever happen to Hollywood if these names are released. This could be probably the biggest entertainment industry scandal that probably has ever and maybe even will ever happen.
The attack!
Ideally.
Come on, motherfucker!
Ideally, this is what happens. We need this culling. Yeah. Bigger than Epstein? Yes. Way bigger than Epstein. Who went down for Epstein? The guy killed himself, right? And then, like, that other woman, Gillislaine Maxwell, went to jail or some shit? Like, who cares? They didn't bring down hardly anybody else besides him. Yeah, like, that's a huge difference. I'm afraid he'll end up committing suicide. That's the thing.
Expose the enablers who enabled this conduct behind closed doors.
Oh my God.
We will pursue this matter no matter who the evidence implicates.
Yep. Epstein was for politicians. Diddy was for celebrities. Yeah, true. Where it's like celebrities are powerful, but they're not Bill Clinton, right? And so I could see this easily happen to them. Yeah, they could be done. They're not lawmakers. Yeah, they don't make the rules.
Deserve nothing less. The biggest secret in the entertainment industry that really wasn't a secret at all has finally been revealed to the world. The wall of silence has now been broken, and victims are coming forward. Our team has had at this point more than 3,285 individuals contact us, with people claiming
3,285. So these 120 are just the cream of the crop? Like, and these are just the ones that have contacted you?
We gotta plow through them!
People claiming to have been victimized by Sean Combs. After vetting, we now represent 120 individuals who intend to bring civil claims in civil court.
So, if they're representing 120 individuals, let's read in between the lines here. That means that they have found that 120 of these people have enough information and enough evidence to where they have a viable case. Which I would also probably assume is the minority of people. Like, I would logically assume that most people would not have enough evidence to prosecute for something like this, especially because it spans, you know, like 30 years.
Sean Diddy Combs, as well as claims against many other individuals and entities that we will name as defendants as we file these individual cases.
I hate to say it, but I'll believe it when I see it. After Epstein, after Harvey Weinstein, I'll believe it when I see it.
And you should know, to the extent the clients feel comfortable, we also intend to make these individuals available to the authorities, specifically to the FBI. And you should also know a few of them have already been spoken to by the FBI. Now, before we discuss the nature of the claims and claimants themselves, let me comment on the large volume of calls we have received since our first announcement.
Yeah, this is 3,000.
Even before the indictment of Sean Combs, we had received a small volume of calls and it screened a handful of cases. After the indictment of Sean Combs and the announcement that we were pursuing these cases, the floodgates opened.
This is something that's extremely common for a lot of people that are sexual abusers and bad actors inside of different spaces, is that when a person gets prosecuted or they get criminally tried for any sort of sexual bad behavior, the average is that a person who actually gets held accountable for bad sexual behavior has already had 5 prior victims that they were not held accountable for. So that's why that's the reason, and this is a studied phenomenon, and I think this is true, like obviously with like celebrities because they're very powerful. But what I'm saying is that it's true even at like an individual private citizen level. It's extremely common.
People who wouldn't otherwise, for a variety of reasons.
And that's why, by the way, you see when one person speaks out, a bunch of other people speak out too. And like, to me, that's one of the big indicators whether I believe the like veracity of like an accusation. Is like, I generally like, you know, one person accuses somebody of something, it's like, okay, right, I'm not sure what happened. But like 3 or 4 or 10 people, or let's say, I don't know, 3,285 people come out and they say the same thing. Or like they all say the same thing about this one person. It's like, come on, at what point, right?
Are now stepping forward to make their voices heard and to pursue justice. But no, most of these people are scared.
Yeah, of course.
They fear backlash in their communities. They fear backlash in their own families.
Mm-hmm.
They are afraid of retaliation from the perpetrators and their associates.
Yep.
They are rightly afraid for their own personal safety. I expect that through this process, many powerful people will be exposed.
We gotta protect this man. Yeah. I just, like... Diddy's gonna die? So, I don't think that's going to happen because it won't change the outcome. The difference between Diddy and Epstein is that a bunch of other people have these videos. With Epstein, nobody else had this information because it was so locked down. Like Epstein, you've got to keep in mind, was flying out like former presidents, like, you know, CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies. Like the level of control that they had was like way higher than Diddy. Like you've got to keep in mind, like Epstein was like several measures of power more powerful than Diddy. Like way, like, I mean, this guy was friends with Bill Clinton. It's not even close.
Many dirty secrets will be revealed. We know what we are potentially up against. And this is always the case in situations like this when a celebrity is involved. People can be downright mean and nasty.
I bet they can.
You'd be shocked at the length fans will go, no matter the evidence, to the contrary, to defend celebrities they love.
I wouldn't be surprised by that.
Word fans. They're fanatics.
That's clever.
I've personally already been threatened multiple times on social media.
I bet.
And when I agreed to pursue this, I expected as much.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't my first rodeo. But victims who step forward to have their voices heard should not be subjected to that kind of conduct. They should not be targeted. I want to say this, and I want to be clear about it. Although we are vetting each call as stringently as we can, I always start with a mindset that I believe victims. I believe victims because I understand the tremendous courage it takes to step forward. So if you're watching this, please hear me. If you're out there and you have been victimized, you are not alone. There is a great strength in numbers.
Yeah, that's what happens with a lot of people.
You can obtain justice. We can help you, and we will help you. That being said, as stated, we are vetting every call.
As crazy as Diddy defenders, I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen any Diddy defenders. And like, if there were any Diddy defenders, like 100 new sexual assault allegations, one person's apparently 9 that's named. Like, I feel like people are like, oh yeah, I mean, damn, wow, that whew, okay, ain't that something? Wow. Yeah, I feel like that's. Yeah, where are they?
All that we receive, we've had to turn away some. For each, we ask for corroboration. For each, we ask for the identity of witnesses. We also have collected pictures, videos, texts, We check venues, we check dates. We want to corroborate that the claims being made have legitimacy and merit. We have on staff now a former detective from the Major Offenders Unit of Houston Police Department who is helping us vet each claim. We're using our common sense. We're being stringent because, as I said, these are not easy cases. They're very tough. The process is hard, and in some cases, the process is very lengthy. These cases are hard to prove. Many times it's the victim's word against the alleged perpetrator.
Maybe they only prove half of them.
Each of these victims will no doubt be publicly attacked by the alleged perpetrators, and in some cases, the general public. The feckless and cowardly keyboard warriors love to attack. We know what we're up against. We did not enter this fray blindly.
Damn.
I wish it was my last such fray. I wish this type of hate behavior wasn't so pervasive. But it is what it is, so we will press on. As
this guy's
said,
good,
our law
man.
Firms have been retained by 120 individuals at this point to pursue cases.
It is what it is, yep.
Against Sean Diddy Combs. You should know, in this group, it's evenly divided between males and females. There are 60 males and 60 females who have joined us to pursue these claims as plaintiffs.
So if it's even and it's like that, the odds are they probably took the 120 best ones because they didn't have the bandwidth for any more than that. Like, that's logically what would happen, right? They took the top 60 for each one, the strongest cases, because you've got to keep in mind, like, you can't just, like, you know, do an infinite amount of cases.
Plaintiffs. In this group, 62% identify as African American, 30% are white, and the remainder are Hispanic or Asian. Victims are from more than 25 states.
Mm-hmm.
Majority are from California, New York,
I don't know why it's doing
Georgia, and Florida. I don't want to focus.
Is this? Can y'all check real quick and see if this is me, or if this is the video? Can y'all do that just real quick? It's not just you? Okay, okay.
When we talk about the ages of the victims when the conduct occurred, it's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Our youngest victim at the time of the occurrence was 9 years old. We have an individual who was 14 years old. We have one who was 15. 25 of the 120 individuals who are plaintiffs in these cases were minors at the time of the acts complained of. The time frame of the acts complained of is...
Somebody said Justin Bieber was 14 then? That's crazy. Man, what a coincidence. That's crazy. Wow.
Very wide. The conduct at issue spans from the years 1991 all the way to this year, 2024.
What?
If you wonder why there are so many alleged victims, that's your answer. We're talking about more than
30 years,
years
150
of this type of conduct.
Oh my God.
Now, although most of the victims who have stepped forward were victimized after 2015, this has been going on for a very long time.
Because you got to keep in mind that, like, the people that probably got fucked around with, like, in, like, the early 2000s and, like, maybe even the 90s or, like, even the early 2010s, you know, you didn't have as many smartphones back then. Like, the world wasn't as connected. You didn't have as much evidence as you do now. Like, now you've got all this evidence. So
Bug, why
and
don't
also,
you?
like, of course,
Maybe she'd still be alive.
You know, as time goes on, it becomes harder to prove things because it's like, well, this happened such a long time ago, and, like, you know, there's less people that remember it well. And there's also, of course, statute of limitations. And so, yeah.
Now, when you think about the fact that some of this conduct occurred 25 years ago,
They don't have strong evidence, just hearsay?
you wonder why would it take somebody so long to step forward. I want to remind you that many states in the United States have recognized that it's very difficult for a victim to step forward and to make these types of allegations when something very terrible has happened to them. I'll use New York, the state of New York as an example. The state of New York has
It's a big problem that like people have is that like there's like there's always like this internet discourse that is about whether you should believe victims or not. And I think the reality is that you can't prosecute and you can't go after a case for something like this unless you have some degree of trust that the person is telling the truth. I think that from my perspective, it's trust but verify. You know, you're coming up to this. It doesn't mean like, you know, shoot first and ask questions later, but it means, okay, you're coming up with this accusation. We're going to take this seriously and we're going to act on it. I wish more people thought like that.
Statutes in place that revive claims that are even claims that would typically be not
Too many victims, yeah.
That
Too many people.
revive such claims and they can be brought even 25 to 30 years later.
Yeah.
Because there's a recognition there in New York and California and other states that it's very difficult for a victim to come forward. And I would respectfully suggest the only reason many of these people are coming forward because they see other victims coming forward. And it gives them some comfort that, hey, I won't be the only one. And I expect more victims will come forward. You know, there's an old saying that says, a lie has great speed, but truth has endurance.
Yeah.
The acts complained of in these cases that we're going to file occurred primarily
I never
in New
heard
York,
that. That's true.
either Manhattan or the Hamptons, or occurred in California, primarily in Los Angeles, or in Florida, primarily in Miami. Most of these events and incidents occurred at parties, typically after parties, or album release parties, New Year's Eve parties, 4th of July parties, something they called a puppy party.
No matter how you interpret what puppy could mean, it's bad. Doesn't matter how you want to interpret it, it's bad either way.
Parties, 4th of July parties.
Again.
Something they called a puppy party.
Jesus.
All-white party.
All-white party?
Although several of these events occurred at auditions. Many times, especially young people, people wanting to break into the industry, were coerced into this type of conduct in the promise of being made a star, or in the promise of having Sean Combs listen to their tape or even let them read for Sean Combs.
Well, that's never happened before.
You should know that some of this behavior occurred at well-known venues in New York City. Some of this behavior occurred at private residences of people that we all know. Some of this behavior occurred at hotels that we're all familiar with. You should know that more than 55% of the victims filed reported this conduct to either the authorities, that is the police, or to hospitals. We're in the process of collecting with our...
This goes into what I was thinking earlier, because statistically, as far as I know, there is a low probability that people filed reports. So this proves, it doesn't really prove, but it goes to show kind of what I was saying is that they clearly took the 120 most credible, because for actual reports, there is a very low probability that somebody files a report. So if you're at 55% for something like this, that means that you've curated the most plausible and the most verifiable instances.
Our team, assistants, medical records.
You see what I'm saying?
Reports that were made to the authorities, and I've already said that some of the individuals in this group did in fact talk to the FBI. You should know that several of the individuals, and when I say several, I mean many, who did in fact seek medical treatment were drug tested, and drugs were found in their system, weird drugs.
It's crazy how it just gets worse. That's not, wow, so it just gets worse and worse.
Drugs that you probably never heard of. One in particular that continues to pop up is a drug called xylazine, or trank, which, based on our research, is known as a horse tranquilizer.
What the fuck?
Now, there's been a lot of reports that we're filing a class action. This is not a class action. Class actions when one or two people file a case on behalf of a group of people. That's not this. These cases will be individual cases. Each case will live and die on its own merit. These cases will be filed individually, one plaintiff against whoever the defendants were involved in the case.
Oh my God.
Each case may be filed in one venue like California, another case may be filed in New York.
Multiple charges,
One
yeah.
case may sue just Sean Combs, but multiple other people. One case may sue a range of people. I would expect most, though, to be filed, as I said, in New York and Los Angeles. Now, I know this. Many of you came here thinking or hoping, perhaps believing, that I may start naming names. Well, that day will come, but it won't be.
He's not going to do it until it goes to court. Because if he goes and he names names right now, those people will know and they can act accordingly. So obviously he's not going to name names. That would be stupid. Never tell somebody what you're going to do until you do it. Yeah, don't show your hands. Yeah, of course.
You will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already.
I think this is already a lot different than the whole than the Epstein situation, because all of the information is way more decentralized. Like, the Epstein situation was extremely centralized, and the control around it was incredibly tight. But with this, there's already so many other people that know about the information. I feel like you basically can't stop this at this point, because too many people know about it. And so, like, even if you kill one or two of these people, the tipping point has already happened. Especially considering these are people in entertainment, so the odds are that there's like media of these things happening.
She knows who some of these individuals are. Because we make this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, the names that were shot. These are individual cases. There are indeed other perpetrators involved. They will be revealed when that particular individual case is ready to be filed. They already know who they are. And I'm talking here about not just the cowardly but complicit bystanders. That is, those people that we know watched this behavior occur and did nothing.
Yeah, this is what I saw. Yeah, this is what I saw earlier.
The people that participated.
Yeah, because this is the thing. People that knew that it was happening and didn't do anything about it. It's gonna get real? Yeah. Bro, like, this is insane.
Encouraged it, egged it on. They know who they are.
Oh my God.
I call them the facilitators of foul play. Willing participants in foul conduct.
Yeah.
We identify them. Each will be part of this case as defendants. These defendants will not only include individuals, but also include corporate entities who ultimately profit off of this culture and behavior. I'm looking at banks, pharmaceutical companies, hotels. We know that many of these individuals were paid cash. We know that many of these individuals involved, whether they were the ones being assaulted and abused, or they're witnessing other people being assaulted and abused and then paid and threatened and told to leave. Typically paid 10 grand in cash and told to leave. And then threatened as they were leaving.
Only 10 grand? So, Jesus.
In addition to Sean Combs.
That's it?
You should know the defendants in these cases we're going to file will include anyone, of course, who engaged in the assault or exploitation.
Yeah.
Anyone who participated in such in any way. Anyone who encouraged or facilitated this conduct. Anyone who was in the room and watched it happen but made no effort to stop it. Any venue or venue owner.
Bro, they're going scorched earth. Oh my God. This is insane. And the thing is also, like, the fact that this guy went out and made like a massive, like, did a whole press conference for this. It's going to be pretty hard to kill this guy now. And You know, like, and also, by the way, he's at a law office, and there's a bunch of other people that work at the same law office, and they all know the same thing.
Who was aware of what was going on, but failed to stop it. Any individual or entity who knew about the conduct and benefited from it, but did nothing to report it or stop it. And any individual or entity who covered it up or helped cover it up. These people who know who they are should just come forward now. I would imagine, as we speak here, there are a myriad of people who are very nervous.
Oh, man.
You can't hide skeletons in the closet forever. I would expect there are many people out there right now who are desperately searching their memories as they delete their texts and data. Now,
I can think of one of them. Yeah.
These are, in fact, individual cases. There is a common theme, an MO, if you will.
What's the theme?
Typically, the victim is lured into a situation where he or she is given a drink. Typically, that drink, reported by these victims, is apparently laced with something. Once that drink takes effect, the perpetrators perform all kinds of sexual acts on the victims, many times passing him or her around as other people watch and enjoy the show, and then leave the victim ashamed, confused, injured, and wondering what happened. When the victim reaches out, he or she is told not to say anything. Sometimes there are threats of physical violence or financial repercussions.
Yeah, of course.
Or bodily harm. The claims we intend to bring will include the following: violent sexual assault or rape, sexual abuse, facilitated sex with a controlled substance, false imprisonment, compelling prostitution, sexual misconduct, dissemination of video recordings, false imprisonment, sexual abuse of minors. Given a large volume of cases,
those are all really bad. Oh my God. Wow.
And given our other docket obligations, and given the fact that we want to be sure when we file these cases that they are fully vetted, I expect we'll start filing these cases against Sean Combs and other perpetrators within the next 30 days. Now, it's rare, you know, sexual abuse, sexual exploitation, this type of activity is pervasive in our society, and it's rare we get a chance where we can really focus on this as a country and really focus on this about how pervasive this is and what we can, as collectively can do about it. So I thought
it's disappointing that you have a lot of people that co-opt issues like this and they turn them into being like kind of a women are lying or men are bad type situation, because I think it muddies the waters a lot. And what he's saying is really true. And the problem is, like, you have so many people with, like, you know, past unresolved trauma in one way or another, or like their, you know, vendetta against the other gender. And these people, I think what they do is that they try to, like, they want the world to look like the way they see it. And I do really, really hope people take this shit seriously. I do. I really hope people do, especially like a lot of the like kind of like red pill, like, you know, people that are like constantly worried about like, false accusations and shit like that. This stuff happens a lot, and it's real a lot. Like it's not like every accusation's fake.
Take this opportunity before I go into some of the individual cases.
It's on video. Some of them are
individual claims being made, and some of the, so you'll get a sense of what this 120 people group looks like individually. I want to bring forward Carrie Paul. She is a national victim advocate who helps victims who have been victimized by this type of conduct.
I feel like this pretty much what's going on, right? I mean, I think that, like, you know, him explaining it. I'll go ahead and I'll go to the end because like they're just gonna be talking about like kind of like different things. So yeah, I mean she just gonna be talking about. I'll wrap it up.
Of the victim. You can file these cases, these individual cases, under Jane Doe or John Doe. Each state is different in that respect.
Skips the woman.
Typically, there is a...
No, it's just that, like, I mean, obviously they're going to talk about, like, how prevalent, like, this kind of stuff is and, like, why people don't come out for it and everything. And, like, I feel like also, like, I don't want to patronize you guys. I feel like most normal people know that, right? Everybody knows this, like, most, like, adults, right, that aren't, like, you know, like part of some sort of like brainwashing. Like we all know this. And so that's why I'm like, yeah, we know.
A balancing test, like the public's right to know the name of the victim and plaintiff versus the confidentiality and the safety of the plaintiff.
Yeah.
So we'll have to struggle with that with each one of these cases. Our intention, of course, is to, like we always do, file these cases under a pseudonym until the court tells us otherwise. But let me share with you a few, just kind of give you a sense of the kind of cases and the kind of instances that people are calling and reporting that we are trying to corroborate, vet, and these are the ones that we've already corroborated, vetted, and collected evidence on. One individual who was 22 years at the time she was assaulted said that the typical MO at one of these parties that have been widely discussed in the press was that when you were handed a drink, and now we know that the drink is laced with something, if you refused to drink it, you were kicked out of the party.
Yeah, of course.
Now, let that sink in for a minute. I mean, the admission to this party was that you had to drink the chosen drink that was handed to you, and now we know that in most cases, I would say 90% of the cases, these individuals were drugged with some sort of drug. That was kind of the MO. Another instance, this individual who was 9 years old at the time was taken to a audition in New York City with Bad Boy Records. Other boys were there to audition as well. All of them were trying to land a record deal. All of them were minors. This individual was sexually abused, allegedly by Sean Combs and several other people at the studio.
And other people too.
In the promise to both his parents and to him himself of getting a record deal.
What the fuck?
Another instance, another minor, told allegedly by Sean Combs that he would make him a star, but he needed to visit with him in private about it, away from his parents. Once they were in a private area, allegedly Mr. Combs made the victim perform oral sex upon him. Another incident.
Order filled.
And he's just like, okay, next. Like, oh my God.
Individual 15 years old at the time, flown to New York City to
Order
attend
filled.
a party. Was
Order
drugged
cancelled.
And then taken into a private room, allegedly in the presence of Mr. Combs, where this female individual, minor, was raped, and then other individuals took turns raping her. Another individual, 26 at the time.
How do you just like, this is crazy. Oh my God. And he just keeps going.
Of the occurrence was picked up by, allegedly, by Mr. Combs and several other people in a black SUV from the airport.
Order partially filled.
The SUV, and then literally woke
Order
up the
filled.
next day not knowing what had happened, but with pain and damage to both her vagina and her anus, where she then went to the hospital. She was missing her underwear and her shoes. Another instance, an individual,
another
this time,
instance,
not a minor, was attended a group dinner, allegedly with Sean Combs in Miami. She wasn't drinking because she was pregnant. but whatever she drank at the table, apparently, at least according to her, was laced with something. She blacked out, and she woke up in the same bed, again, allegedly, with Mr. Combs in his mansion in Miami.
And she was pregnant?
Her vagina and her anus were torn and sore. And I could go on. I mean, literally, you're sensing a theme here. It's the same theme, and it all involves some sort of drug. One instance, an individual who was 20 years old at the time was asked to attend, just saw her on the street, asked to attend a party in a hotel. She was flattered, went to the party, was given one drink and doesn't remember anything else. Ultimately, was so messed up, went to the hospital where they found cocaine and this horse tranquilizer in her blood system. I want to give you a quote from
Order filled.
a very young man.
Order
who
cancelled.
told us over the phone about his experience and all the things that happened to him. He says allegedly at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs and his friends in the effort to try to sign.
So there's another one, right? Because like he's saying here that it wasn't, because like a lot of this is just like literally just Diddy doing it himself. But if you listen to what's being said here is that other people are also doing it. They were watching it happen, right? This is fucking insane. Like, this is like allegedly, it is. It's allegedly, yep. We don't know.
A record deal. This was kind of what he was told he would have to do. His quote is, "Had he not been in power, I feel like I could have been something great. I quit the industry because of what Sean Combs did to me." And that's really what it comes down to. We are pursuing this,
I can easily see that,
asking you to support this effort, to encourage witnesses and victims to come forward and bring your evidence so we can continue to break down this wall of silence and we can continue to have these stories heard. This is the beginning of what I hope to be a national dialogue. This type of sexual assault, sexual abuse, and sexual exploitation should never happen in the United States or anywhere else. This should have never been allowed to go on for so long. This conduct has created a mass of individuals who are injured, scared, and scarred.
Yeah, literally.
If you are one of those individuals, we ask you to reach out. If not to us, to someone you trust. If you are someone who witnessed any of these events, we ask you to reach out. Your name can remain confidential. With that, I'll take a few questions, not many, maybe two, but if you have a question, I'll be pleased to try to answer it.
How many minors are making accusations in total, and are the feds aware of the allegations of minors in the case?
I don't know what the feds are aware of, okay, but I do know it's 25 out of this 120. But I will say this to that point. We welcome the FBI or any...
You see what he said, right? It's 25 out of the 120. So very clearly they received more. And again, they probably just picked the 120 most credible. It's more than 25. 25 is the minimum. And everybody knows it's more than that.
Authority who wants to come to us, and we're going to make that available to these victims because I think that's important. My suspicion is, based on talking with these folks, is that the FBI is just not aware of these people. The FBI has talked to some of these folks, and I'm going to try to encourage the victims to, in fact, talk to the FBI because I think they have some very important things to say. Yes.
Were all of the children auditioning because they were musicians, or were any of them kids of employees or anything like that?
That's a good question.
Seeking either TV or some sort of music.
It was harder to hear. I think some people might not be able to hear that. What she asked was that Were they just kids that were just like there, or kids that were looking for prospective careers?
With promises of,
Yeah.
you know, we're going to make you a star.
Yeah. See.
Instead, basically did things to them such that they don't want to have anything to do with the entertainment industry ever again. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your attention. We're going to go now. Thank you.
Do you anticipate any Houston cases?
Holy shit. There's a video right there. Y'all want to watch the rest of it? Some parts of it I didn't watch. Did he get in the electric chair? I mean, I want to, like, honestly, I want to see him testify and say who else was involved. Because, like, that's really what needs to happen, is because, like, something like this, like, he didn't do this. He didn't solo this, right? Like, he did this with a bunch of other people. So, like, I mean, him going to jail and, like, he's done, right? Like, I mean, he's obviously done. So, like, that's a foregone conclusion. We know that's going to happen. What about everybody else? Yeah, like, what about the people that were involved? Like-minded individuals. Yeah, exactly, right? They better have them on watch for suicide. I'm going to be honest. I don't even think it matters. I think if Diddy kills himself or somebody kills Diddy at this point, it won't make a difference. Because there's so much corroborating evidence. There's so many people that have talked about it. And there's so many things that have happened. And there's probably data, phone calls. Like, again, like Epstein and Clinton, these guys are fucking professionals. Diddy? Usher? The fuck? These are singers. Like, let's be honest, right? Like, they're not on that level. They're not anywhere remotely as powerful as somebody like Bill fucking Clinton. Like, let's be honest, right, guys? Like, yeah, these are the guys that pretend to be gangsters. People like Bill Clinton are the ones that say they're not gangsters, but they actually fucking are. Very big difference there. Diddy's a rookie? Yeah, bro, like these, yeah, they're... I don't think they have even remotely close to the power or influence to stop this from happening. Especially with so much information and so many people knowing the information. Hollywood's involved too? Yeah, I know. But Hollywood doesn't write laws. That's the difference. Singers who are under the influence of powerful people who invested in them? Yeah, I guess so, right? Man, Clinton made $250 million in office and his wife. Hey, you know, and that's just what we know about, right? You heard about 50 Cent selling a documentary about this to Netflix? I actually don't know anything about that. I'm not sure. They'll turn on